Chapter 3730. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was solemn. Even though she had used the blood chi field to raise her cultivation to the 8th level of the purple realm, there was still a big gap between her and Chu Yunyao, who was at the 9th level of the purple realm. Needless to say, the power of Chu Yunyao's martial skill would not be weak, so she had to deal with it with all her strength. As the seal between Chu Yunyao's hands gradually completed, the smile on her lips widened. Bailey Hongzhuang, I'll let you see the power of the 9th level of the purple realm. In the next second, a huge flaming lion suddenly appeared in the air. The raging flames burned crazily, as if it was a flame spirit, burning with extreme flames. The temperature of the surroundings rose in an instant, and the fiery red light illuminated the entire green mountain. Roar! With a loud roar from the flaming lion, the whole ground seemed to shake. The lifelike appearance was like a real lion. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed. Looking at the lion in front of her, she knew that this martial skill was probably an Earth stage martial skill, and it was extremely powerful. The flaming lion's eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang, as if it had already regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as delicious food. As long as Chu Yunyao gave the order, it would pounce on Bailey Hongzhuang without hesitation. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were not slow at all. A complicated seal quietly appeared between her hands, and a powerful fluctuation spread out. After noticing the 7-colored essence energy between Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, Chu Yunyao couldn't help but frown. She had never seen a cultivator's essence energy with 7 colors. It was as bright and magnificent as a rainbow, and it made Bailey Hongzhuang's face even more outstanding. This woman seemed to be especially favored by the heavens. No matter what she did, there was a sense of beauty. However, Chu Yunyao was soon attracted by the powerful fluctuation displayed by Bailey Hongzhuang, and she couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Logically speaking, even if Bailey Hongzhuang used the blood aura field to raise her cultivation, it was impossible for her to display such a tyrannical martial skill. If she wasn't mistaken, even a true 8th level purple realm cultivator wouldn't be able to display a martial skill of this level. However, Bailey Hongzhuang actually did it. How could she not be surprised? It seemed that everyone was right. This Bailey Hongzhuang was truly a cultivation genius. If she was allowed to continue developing, she might really become an extremely famous figure in the Inner Palace. Fortunately, she acted early enough. After today, Bailey Hongzhuang would completely disappear from Penglai Island. She naturally didn't need to worry. A rainbow-colored pagoda suddenly appeared behind Bailey Hongzhuang. The rainbow-colored light constantly revolved, dazzling and eye-catching. It was just like Bailey Hongzhuang's rainbow-colored yuan force, magnificent and magnificent. Although the 7-colored pagoda was magnificent and resplendent, the aura it emitted was equally powerful. Go! Chu Yunyao's eyes flashed with a cold light. Without hesitation, she called the flaming lion and rushed towards Bailey Hongzhuang. The more she found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's power, the more she wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiaohei, be careful to save Yingying. Don't let Chu Yunyao find out. Bailey Hongzhuang lowered her voice and instructed. Now that Shangguan Yingying was tied to a tree, she had to rescue her first. Shangguan Yingying was now tied to a tree. She came here today to save Shangguan Yingying, not to fight to the death with Chu Yunyao. Chapter 3731. Yes, Master. Xiaohei suddenly disappeared into the darkness. After it shrank, it was impossible to find it in the night. This was also the best opportunity to rescue Yingying. Bailey Hongzhuang thought very simply. She didn't come here alone. After understanding the difference in strength between the two sides, she understood that the possibility of defeating Chu Yunyao head-on was almost zero. Similarly, she couldn't die like this. As long as she could take Yingying and disappear from Chu Yunyao's sight, then she could use the Chaos Ring to disappear directly. This was her trump card. However, it was not easy to do this. She couldn't expose the secret of the Chaos Ring. After disappearing, she definitely couldn't let Chu Yunyao find the Chaos Ring. Therefore, she had to take advantage of the battle to leave with Shangguan Yingying. Chu Yinyao didn't notice Bailey Hongzhuang's small movements. She was immersed in the joy of Bailey Hongzhuang's defeat. Boom! The earth-shaking sound came out with a loud bang. In an instant, the earth shook and the ground under her feet cracked inch by inch. It was like a spider web spreading extremely quickly. The fiery red lion and the seven-colored light of the glazed pagoda collided with each other. The two lights intertwined, each occupying half of the sky. The flaming lion intended to completely tear the glazed pagoda to pieces, and the spinning glazed pagoda was not so easy to solve. The whole sky was illuminated by the light of the battle. The cultivators of Penglai Island also turned their eyes to Qingshan. Obviously, they didn't expect that a battle of this level would break out in Qingshan. Penglai Palace. After Chu Yunshang noticed the battle from Qingshan, she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. It seems that Yunyao and Bailey Hongzhuang have already fought. I didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang is very loyal. Knowing that it is a dead end, she still went. Indeed, but today she has to be removed from Penglai Palace. He Yunjun hugged Chu Yunshang and smiled faintly. Have you noticed the movements of Di Beichun? Bailey Hongzhuang didn't ask for help, did she? Chu Yunshang couldn't help but ask. Although these guys are not Yunyao's opponent, Bailey Hongzhuang has made a great contribution to Penglai Palace. If the palace master knows that Yunyao killed Bailey Hongzhuang, it will not be good for Yunyao's development here. He Yunju nodded. Don't worry. I've sent people to monitor their movements. Bailey Hongzhuang did leave alone. If they left, we would have received the news. However, since Yunyao is now fighting with Bailey Hongzhuang, even if they rush over now, it's already too late. Hearing this, Chu Yunshang's smile widened. That's true. We don't need to worry. As the two attacks collided, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure quickly retreated. She had been paying attention to Shangguan Yingying's situation. After seeing that Shangguan Yingying had successfully left the battle area, she was relieved. However, Chu Yinyao was not a fool. It was not easy for them to disappear from Chu Yinyao's sight. The smoke and dust gradually dissipated. Chu Yinyao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with disdain. It's really hard for you to care about the safety of Shangguan Yingying at this time. Chapter 37-32. Do you think you can escape from my hands just like that? Chu Yinyao's eyes were filled with ridicule, and her voice was full of ridicule. Dream on. From the moment she lured Bailey Hongzhuang here, she had no intention of letting Bailey Hongzhuang return alive. Therefore, even though the sky was filled with smoke and dust just now, her spiritual power had always been locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang made any movements to escape, she would be the first to discover it. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced coldly at Chu Yunyao. That cold gaze had already explained everything. As long as my spiritual power is locked onto you, your every move can't escape my eyes unless you can defeat me head-on. But obviously, that's impossible. Chu Yinyao's lips curled up slightly. You should have suffered quite a bit of injury from that attack just now, right? But you still have to pretend that you're fine. It's really been hard on you. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly and forcibly suppressed the taste of blood in her mouth. Just as Chu Yinyao said, the difference in cultivation between them was not small. Even if she used the seven-colored glazed pagoda, she was still not Chu Yinyao's opponent. Under the collision between the two, she suffered serious internal injuries. Hongzhuang, how are you? Shangguan Yingying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang worriedly. Although Bailey Hongzhuang did not show any abnormalities on the surface, it could be seen from her gradually pale face that her current condition was definitely not good. 9th level Purple Realm. This was stronger than any opponent they had encountered before. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her right hand, indicating that Shangguan Yingying did not need to worry. Yingying, you should rest for a while. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was holding on, Shangguan Yingying felt a burst of guilt and annoyance in her heart. If she still had the strength to fight, she could at least fight side by side with Bailey Hongzhuang. It was a pity that Chu Yunyao had already expected such a situation and did not give her the slightest chance. Now that her internal injuries were severe, it was already not easy for her to stand up. It was obviously impossible for her to fight. As if she had guessed Shangguan Yingying's thoughts, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say, Ying, don't worry about me. Go and rest first. Their eyes met, and Shangguan and Ying immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's idea. They had to find a chance to escape. However, Chu Yinyao was also very treacherous. She had been observing them with her spiritual power. If Chu Yinyao kept doing this, then their plan would not work at all. This was really dangerous. The secret of the Chaos Ring could not be exposed. Even if they died, they could not leave the Chaos Ring to Chu Yinyao. You two are really sisters. Chu Yinyao clicked her tongue. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are already at death's door, but you still care about Shangguan and Ying. It seems that I have really underestimated your greatness. Chu Yinyao, don't mock me here. You haven't defeated me yet. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. As a 9th-level Purple Realm cultivator, you can't defeat me even after releasing such a martial skill. At this moment, you are still complacent. I admire your ability to comfort yourself. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Chu Yinyao's expression suddenly changed, and her eyes suddenly became sharp. I wanted to let you live a little longer. Since you are eager to die, I will fulfill your wish. Chapter 37-33. Chu Yinyao flipped her hands again, and the yuan qi in her body flowed along her hands into the seal. Judging from the complexity of the seal and the fluctuations it emitted, it was obvious that her attack this time was more terrifying than the previous one. Hongzhuang. Shangguan and Ying couldn't help but call out after noticing this. Chu Yinyao's strength was really too powerful. She had experienced this since she was captured yesterday. With Bailey Hongzhuang's current situation, it would be terrible if she received this attack again. Her deep black eyes flashed with determination and persistence. Ying, we can only try our best. At this point, she had no other choice but to try her best. However, at this moment, there was a sudden sound of footsteps from behind. Listening to the sound of footsteps, the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two changed, and there was a burst of surprise in their heart. Bailey Hongzhuang, you brought people here? Chu Yinyao's face suddenly darkened, and her sharp eyes shot straight at Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't want anyone to know that she was the one who plotted against Bailey Hongzhuang. If someone else came, then this matter would undoubtedly be exposed. At the same time, there was also a trace of surprise in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. She didn't know who had come. A glimmer of hope flashed in Shangguan and Ying's eyes. As long as someone came to help, then they would be able to escape. How do I know if you brought people here? Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Hearing this, Chu Yinyao sneered. Do I need to find help to deal with a guy like you? What a joke. The three immediately stopped fighting, and their attention was focused on the rear. At this time, a shout was heard. Hongzhuang, Ying. Hearing this familiar voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan and Ying's eyes lit up because the intertwined voices belonged to Di Beichen and Xiren. However, judging from the sound of the footsteps, it was clear that Di Beichen and Xiren were not the only ones who had come. After learning who the other party was, Chu Yinyao's face turned extremely ugly, and she couldn't help but feel annoyed. Before she came, she had clearly told Chu Yunshang to help keep an eye on the movements of Di Beichen and others. She must not let them leave. She did not expect that now they would come to her door. How could this not make her angry? Bailey Hongzhuang, consider yourself lucky this time. Chu Yinyao gave Bailey Hongzhuang a fierce look. Her pretty face was full of unwillingness, but there was nothing she could do. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a sneer. Next time, I'm afraid your luck won't be so good. Oomph. Next time, you will definitely die in my hands. Chu Yinyao snorted coldly. Her figure flashed, and she quickly left. Looking at Chu Yinyao's departing figure, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan and Ying could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. If Di Beichen and others did not arrive in time, then the two of them were indeed in a dangerous situation. Soon, Di Beichen and Wen Xiren came to Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan and Ying's side. After seeing that Shangguan and Ying was still alive, both of them were relieved. However, after noticing the terrible injuries on Shangguan and Ying's body, Xiren suddenly burst into anger. Chapter 37-34. Xiren was so heartbroken that he was about to go crazy. Shangguan Yingying had been with him since she was a child. Although she had been cultivating very hard since she was a child, her journey had been very smooth and there had not been many twists and turns. Ever since she came to Penglai Island, Shangguan Yingying had begun to suffer. She had never thought that this time she would be directly kidnapped and tortured like this. The shocking wounds and bloodstains seemed to be imprinted on his heart. At the same time, his hatred for Chu Yunyao had reached the extreme. "Does it hurt?" Xiren couldn't help but ask. Shangguan Ying held Xiren's hand and said, "Xiren, I'm fine. You don't have to worry." At the same time, Di Beichen also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's pale face. With just a slight perception, he already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had suffered heavy injuries. "Wife, your internal injuries are very serious." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. "It's fine. By the way, why are you here?" This was what surprised her the most. Before coming, she clearly didn't tell Di Beichen and the others. How could they come so quickly? Originally, she planned to let Xiao Hei tell Di Beichen and the others, but she also knew that Chu Yunshang and the others must be watching their actions closely. If Di Beichen and the others left, then Chu Yunshang would definitely notice it at the first moment. In this way, the matter would be even more difficult to solve. If Shangguan Yingying was in any danger, that would be the worst. Since Di Beichen and the others couldn't leave at all, she simply didn't say anything about it. Otherwise, Di Beichen and the others would definitely not let her come alone after knowing about it, and the situation would become extremely complicated. It was just that she didn't expect Di Beichen and the others to come, and so quickly. Hearing this, Di Beichen's expression was a bit mysterious. "It's a long story. I'll tell you slowly later. Now we have to hide first. Chu Yunyao will be back soon." With Di Beichen's voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying were both stunned and couldn't help but ask, "Why?" Now that Senior Brother Run and the others are here, Chu Yunyao is not willing to expose her identity. She will not come out. After all, even if Chu Yunyao's strength was very powerful, she was not sure to kill all of them in a short time. Senior Brother Run and the others didn't come. Those people are the cultivators we found outside the Penglai Palace. They just wanted to trick Chu Yunyao, but it's obvious that she has been fooled. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes wide open, and the others to be. After Chu Yunyao left quickly, she didn't go too far. She wanted to see who it was. In this way, she would know who Bailey Hongzhuang's helpers were in the future. However, when she saw who it was, she couldn't help but be dumbfounded, because the people who came here were not the cultivators of Penglai Inner Palace at all. These were clearly some motley crew outside Penglai Palace. After seeing this scene, Chu Yunyao immediately understood that she had been tricked by Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. She was fooled like this. Thinking of this, she immediately turned back. Chapter 37-35. Damn it! Chu Yunyao's face was full of anger. I was cheated by them with such a little trick. An indescribable anger surged in her heart. She wondered why Bailey Hongzhuang had always been so confident. It turned out that she had thought of using this method to cheat her, but she had been tricked. He didn't need to think about it to know that Bailey Hongzhuang must be extremely proud right now. This was originally a losing situation, but she was so easily fooled. Thinking of this, Chu Yunyao was so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. In the next moment, Chu Yunyao returned to Green Mountain as fast as she could. However, when she arrived, there was no trace of Bailey Hongzhuang. "It's only been a short time since I left. I like to see how far they can run." Chu Yunyao snorted coldly, and the killing intent in her eyes grew stronger. At this moment, after being ridiculed, she couldn't wait to kill them. She didn't believe that these two women could run out of her hands. As long as they didn't return to Penglai Palace, she could continue to hunt them down. However, the next scene was beyond Chu Yunyao's expectation. She searched the whole Green Mountain, but she didn't find any trace of Bailey Hongzhuang. These two people seemed to have disappeared out of thin air, leaving no trace. Impossible! Chu Yunyao's face was extremely ugly. How short was the time she left before? It was not enough time for Bailey Hongzhuang and others to go down the mountain, but why didn't she find any clues? In an instant, Chu Yunyao searched the whole mountain up and down again, as if she had gone crazy. The final result told her that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had really escaped like this. How could this be, standing under Green Mountain? Chu Yunyao's face was a little stupefied. She kept thinking about what the problem was, but she couldn't figure it out. She was almost depressed to death. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are lucky this time. Next time, I will kill you with my own hands. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were currently in the Primal Chaos Ring. They also discovered that Chu Yunyao was quickly rushing back and quickly entered the Primal Chaos Ring. Chu Yunyao really came back. Shangguan Yingying sighed. Fortunately, we have a heaven-defying divine artifact like the Chaos Ring. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to escape today. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and turned her clear black eyes to Di Beichen. Her tone was a little surprised. Did you find those people from the foot of the mountain? Di Beichen smiled and nodded. Yes, we were in a hurry. It just so happens that there are always a lot of people outside the Penlai Palace, so we spent some spirit stones to ask them to accompany us up the mountain. I really didn't expect you to even think of this point. Chu Yunyao only thought that many cultivators in the inner hall had come and was worried that her identity would be discovered, so she hurriedly left. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. This move had completely grasped Chu Yunyao's weakness. If not, it was obviously impossible for Chu Yunyao to leave like this. Chapter 37-36. As Xiren said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two fixed their gazes on Di Beichen. They all wanted to know when Di Beichen had made such a decision. Since Chu Yunyao had spent so much effort to have you come alone, she obviously didn't want others to know that she was the one who attacked you. Otherwise, she could have done it directly in the Penlai Palace. As such, I think this trick should work on her. However, this trick can only scare her away temporarily. She will react soon. Fortunately, we have the Ring of Chaos, so we can neutralize it perfectly, Di Beichen explained with a faint smile. Then how did you know that I came here alone? And how did you know that I came to Green Mountain? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes glinted with bewilderment. She had deceived Di Beichen on purpose before, so she had no idea how Di Beichen found out. Seeing the curious expression on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, Di Beichen couldn't help but rub her hair affectionately, saying with an affectionate smile, I have been with you for such a long time. Don't I know you well enough? Just by looking at your subtle expressions, I can tell what you're thinking. Since you came back from Chu Yunyao's residence, the expression on your face has changed. Though you tried your best to hide it, I could still tell that you were in a bad mood. So, I asked Xiaobai. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was taken aback. She looked at Xiaobai in surprise and asked, You did Xiaobai tell you? Di Beichen nodded slightly. Xiaobai was worried about you, so she told me the details after I asked. Master, I did this because I was worried about you. Xiaobai raised her hands, her face full of guilt. Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hongzhuang over and said, Xiaobai is not as talkative as Xiaohei. She can keep the secret. Xiaohei, who had been amazed by Xiaobai's cunning mind, suddenly changed her expression after hearing Di Beichen's words. Di Beichen, are you belittling me? You have different personalities. Each of you has your own good points, Di Beichen said with a faint smile. Xiaohei curled her lips. Although your comfort is very perfunctory, I still accept it. After learning the specific situation from Xiaobai, I did not stop you from leaving. At the same time, I was also trying to avoid the attention of Chu Yunshang and others. Then I communicated with Senior Brother Run and cooperated with them to put on a show. Then Xiren and I left Penlai Palace smoothly. After understanding all this, Shengwan Yingying couldn't help but give Di Beichen a thumbs up. Beichen, I really admire you. You're really amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang also sighed in her heart. She thought she had concealed it well, but she didn't expect to be easily seen through by Di Beichen. On the contrary, she didn't realize that Di Beichen had found out. As if seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts, Di Beichen's eyes were deep and charming. You were worried about Yingying's safety and how to deal with Chu Yunyao. Naturally, you didn't pay much attention to my expression. I can't beat you in terms of acting, but fortunately, you came. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for me to take Yingying away. Yes, if something happened to Hongzhuang because of me, I would be a sinner. Fortunately, Shangguan Yingying's face showed a relieved smile, but before she could speak, she had fainted. Chapter 37:37. Yingying. Ziren shook Shangguan Yingying in his arms, but the latter did not respond at all. Seeing this, when Ziren's face could not help but turn pale, and his black eyes were filled with worry. Let me take a look at Yingying. Bailey Hongzhuang took Shangguan Yingying's hand and carefully felt her pulse. After a while, she let go of Shangguan Yingying's hand. Hongzhuang, how is Yingying? When Ziren looked at Bailey Hongzhuang worriedly, his heart was already in his throat. Ever since he knew that Shangguan Yingying had been taken away, his heart had been tightly clenched, and he was so nervous and uncomfortable that he almost suffocated. This feeling was not relieved until he saw with his own eyes that Shangguan Yingying was still alive, but now that Shangguan Yingying was in a coma, his emotions were immediately drawn out again. Ziren, Yingying's injuries are indeed very serious. Not only are there serious external injuries, but there are also internal injuries. Obviously, Chu Yunyao has been torturing her since yesterday. As soon as these words came out, Ziren's heart sank. Although he was not a doctor, he could see how bad Shangguan Yingying's situation was from her expression. He thought that since yesterday until now, Shangguan Yingying must have felt like a year. Then is she all right? Will she be okay? Don't worry, although her injuries are serious, she only needs to recuperate for a period of time to recover. Phew! When Ziren breathed a sigh of relief. He was almost suffocating before. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the healing medicine and a medicinal pill and handed it to Ziren, saying, "Apply the healing medicine on her wounds first, then give this medicinal pill to her. She will wake up when she feels better." Ziren took the things and nodded. "Okay, wife, your injuries are not light now. You should heal them first." Di Beichun asked with concern. He had noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's pale face the moment he saw her. Presumably, her injuries were not light. Hearing Di Beichun's words of concern, Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her lips and smiled. "Okay, I'll heal myself first. Let's stay on Green Mountain for the time being. We'll leave after we've recovered," Di Beichun said. Chu Yunyao returned to the Penglai Palace angrily. After she learned that it was Di Beichun and Wen Ziren who went to save Bailey Hongzhuang. "Sister, didn't I ask you to help me keep an eye on Di Beichun? Why did you let them leave?" As soon as she returned to her residence, Chu Yunyao yelled at Chu Yunshang with dissatisfaction. Chu Yunshang frowned. Di Beichun and the others left. He Yunjuan's face was also a little surprised. After seeing Chu Yunyao's unhappy expression, he couldn't help asking, "Did you fail?" When I was about to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichun and the others suddenly brought a group of people over. I thought they were the cultivators of the inner palace of Penglai. I didn't want to be discovered by them, so I left quickly. I didn't expect that it was a group of cultivators they found from outside. I fell into their trap. Didn't I tell you before I left not to let them have a chance to leave? Now, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have escaped. Next time, they will definitely be on guard against me. It won't be so easy to find another opportunity to attack. Chapter 37:38. With Chu Yunshang's voice falling, He Yunjun also nodded. It seems to be the case. In that case, Bailey Hongzhuang and others are really very smart. They even deceived our people. They can think of this way to let Yunyao leave. They are indeed very smart. They deserve to be the people favored by Lord Long. Chu Yunshang's eyes were a bit complicated. "Yunyao, what do you think of Bailey Hongzhuang's strength after fighting with her?" "Her strength is naturally not as good as mine." Chu Yunyao rolled her eyes and curled her lips. "Her cultivation is not as good as yours. Naturally, her strength can't be compared with yours. I'm asking you what you think of her fighting strength." Chu Yunshang looked helpless, and then emphasized, "Guess point of view. Tell the truth." Looking at Chu Yunshang's serious face, although Chu Yunyao was very unhappy, she still said, "Her fighting strength is much stronger than the ordinary 6th level Purple Realm cultivator. Even if I make a move, I can't kill her easily." Hearing this, Chu Yunshang's face also showed a look of understanding. Since they can be so favored by Lord Long, there must be enough reasons. I don't know why you are fighting with Bailey Hongzhuang this time, but I still want to remind you that for this kind of opponent with great potential, you must solve it as soon as possible. Otherwise, once she grows up, you will be in trouble. I could have solved her today. If you didn't keep an eye on Di Beichen and others, how could you give Bailey Hongzhuang such a chance? Chu Yinyao's face was full of anger. Originally, all of this was under her control. She didn't expect such a thing to happen in the end. She was so angry. Seeing Chu Yinyao's accusatory look, Chu Yunshang's face also became cold. Yinyao, I am not in the mood to accompany you. Today's matter is indeed my negligence, but you are not qualified to blame me. If you have time, you might as well spend more energy on cultivation. All day long, you only think about causing trouble. No wonder your cultivation speed is slower. After the voice fell, Chu Yunshang was too lazy to talk more with Chu Yinyao. She turned around and called He Yunjun to leave together. Let's go. Looking at Chu Yunshang's back, Chu Yunyao's anger in her heart was even stronger, but she could only suppress it. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang's internal injuries were completely healed, and her pretty face regained its usual color. Ziren, how is Yingying? As soon as she woke up, Bailey Hongzhuang went to care about Shangwan Yingying's situation. Yingying has already woken up. The healing medicine is very effective. Her external injuries are healing very quickly. However, she is currently in seclusion to heal her internal injuries. Wen Ziren said with a smile. Seeing the smile on Wen Ziren's face again, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was also happy. This was in line with Wen Ziren's temperament. His previous gloomy face really made people feel uncomfortable. Yinyao, Yinjing, Yinyao. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes, which were full of fierceness. This crazy woman had done such a hateful thing. The reason why Shangwan Yingying was tortured like this was entirely because of her. Because she was her friend, and because she helped her snatch the cloud spirit fruit, she was treated like this by Yinyao. Chapter 37-39. Shangwan Yingying was usually so lively. Thinking that Shangwan Yingying was treated like this because of her, not only did Shangwan Yingying want her to leave at that dangerous moment, she even felt that Shangwan Yingying was dragging her down. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a wave of pain in her heart. In the end, the cause of this matter was entirely her. She couldn't help but think of the words that Shangwan Yingying said to her when she came back from the resource hall. She felt that she was dragging her down and only hoped that she wouldn't cause trouble. However, Shangwan Yingying like this, let alone Wen Ziren, even she felt sorry for her. It's just a yunling fruit. This Chu Yinyao is really too domineering. Di Beichen's eyes were deep and cold, and his voice was also very cold. When Ziren nodded, this woman is really domineering. According to this judgment, as long as someone takes a fancy to what she wants from the resource hall in the future, she will take revenge on them. This woman likes to cause trouble too much, doesn't she? Looking at Di Beichen and Wen Ziren's speechless expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say, in fact, she didn't treat me like this just because of the yunling fruit. The bigger reason is Duan Huali. As soon as these words came out, Di Beichen and Wen Xinyao were both stunned. Duan Huali? They really didn't think of this possibility. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. Chu Yinyao likes Duan Huali. Coincidentally, she met Duan Huali in the resource hall that day, so I didn't expect it to be so coincidental. Di Beichen and Wen Ziren immediately understood. I really didn't expect that someone like Duan Huali would still like him. I also find it hard to understand. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands. Chu Yinyao seems to like Duan Huali to a very crazy extent. I think she has targeted many of the women that Duan Huali likes. No wonder Duan Huali is such a playboy. Di Beichen's lips curled into a devilish smile as he spoke. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Why? Duan Huali likes one person and Chu Yinyao kills one person. Doesn't that mean he can only like one more person? The more you fall in love with someone else, the more fickle you become. I suddenly feel that it makes sense. When Ziren nodded and gave Di Beichen a thumbs up. I'm beginning to understand Duan Huali. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh out loud. Regarding this, She also sympathized with Duan Huali. 2 days later, Shangguan Yingying had also recovered her usual vigor, and her injuries had completely healed. Since Yingying has recovered, let's set off for the magic training tower, Di Beichan said with a smile. He originally wanted to set off a few days ago, but he didn't expect that there would be such a setback midway, delaying him for a few days. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. We won't return to the Penlai Palace, and will leave directly. However, we have to send a message to Senior Brother Ren and the others to let them know that we are safe and sound so that they can rest assured. However, at this moment, Ziren suddenly said, Di Beichan, Hongzhuang, I want to bring Yingying back. Go back. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. Go back where? Back to the Cloud Sword sect. With that said, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan couldn't help but look at each other, seeing the astonishment in each other's eyes. Chapter 3740. Hearing this, when Ziren turned his head to look at Shangguan Yingying and said, You have always lived well in the Cloud Sword sect. This time, you accompanied me on an adventure, but I didn't take good care of you, and I was even powerless. I don't want to see you endure this anymore. Why don't you return to the Cloud Sword sect? You can also live a more comfortable life. In the past, when Ziren had always felt that it was no big deal to come to the Penlai Island to train, but this time, the matter really touched his nerves. Even though the matter was over now, he still couldn't help but feel afraid. Fortunately, nothing happened to Shangguan Yingying. If something happened, then he really couldn't bear it. He also wanted to immediately kill Chu Yunyao to avenge Shangguan Ying, but the difference in strength between the two of them made him an example. It was precisely because of this that he felt even more pain. He wanted to protect Shangguan Yingying well, and before he had enough strength, he chose to let Shangguan Yingying be in a safe environment. Di Beichan and Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. In the past few days, as Shangguan Yingying's injuries gradually recovered, they had always thought that Ziren's emotions had recovered. They didn't expect that this matter had already deeply rooted in Ziren's heart. So he made such a decision. Regarding this, they could understand, so they couldn't say anything to refuse. After all, the reason why Ziren accompanied them was because of Di Beichan's cursed body. Now that the problem of the cursed body had been solved, they could indeed go back. Ziren, if you've thought it through, I don't object, Di Beichan said slowly. He could understand Ziren's emotions. Because he cared too much, he didn't want his beloved to be hurt in the slightest, just like how he felt when facing Bailey Hongzhuang. Ziren looked deeply at Di Beichan. Beichan, I'm sorry. You are already very loyal to me by accompanying me to Penlai Island. Why do you need to apologize to me? Di Beichan patted Ziren's shoulder. I understand you. However, Shangguan Yingying quickly said, I don't want to go back. Yingying, when Ziren frowned. This place is truly too dangerous. Let's return to the Cloud Word sect. Ziren, I know you're doing this for my own good, but I don't want to go. Shangguan Yingying's attitude was very firm. When I was in the Cloud Sword sect, I was indeed very safe, but ever since I came to Penlai Island, I understood what the life of a cultivator is. Although it was full of danger, it was also full of opportunities. I like this kind of life. I like the feeling of improving myself. I also like fighting alongside Hongzhuang and the others. Although I was injured this time because of Chu Yunyao's design, it was also because of my negligence. If I had paid more attention, I wouldn't have fallen into his trap. I've learned from my mistakes. I won't make the same mistake again in the future. If I leave just because I encountered danger once, that would be a sign of cowardice. Looking at Shangguan Yingying's confident appearance, Ziren frowned and said, Yingying, if it weren't for your good luck this time, you might have already lost your life. So what? Shangguan Yingying asked. Aren't I still alive and well? But there are too many dangers here. Being lucky this time doesn't mean that you will be lucky next time. Chapter 3741. Shangguan Yingying's eyes burned as she looked at Ziren, and her eyes were filled with persistence and determination. Ziren, I understand you. Compared to the peaceful life in the Cloud Word sect, you prefer the life here on Penlai Island. Just as you want me to be happy, I also want you to be able to live the life you like. Most importantly, I want to fight side by side with you and improve together. If you take me away like this, then it will be a knot in my heart for the rest of my life. I won't be happy." Hearing Shangguan Yingying's words, the surprise in Xiren's eyes grew stronger and stronger. Obviously, he didn't expect Shangguan Yingying's attitude to be so resolute. This kind of her was clearly different from the person he knew before. Looking at the scene before them, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other and didn't say anything. This was a matter between husband and wife. No matter what decision was made, they would support it. "Yingying, are you sure?" Xiren stared at Shangguan Yingying. "Don't force yourself." Shangguan Yingying nodded. "I'm sure." However, Xiren fell into silence. After looking at Shangguan Yingying for a long time, he nodded and said, "Okay, since you've already decided, then we'll stay." Shangguan Yingying's face instantly bloomed with a smile. "Xiren, thank you." "Yingying, it's me who needs to thank you." Xiren's gaze was gentle and doting, and there was a trace of heartache in the depths of his eyes. His Yingying had always been the pearl in Cloud Sword sect that was protected by them. It was only after coming to Penglai Island that she suffered so much. He watched Yingying improve bit by bit and become stronger and stronger. His heart was shocked, and everything Shangguan Yingying did was to accompany him in his adventures. With a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? If you two continue to show off your love like this, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave today. Seeing Xiren and Shangguan Yingying looking at each other affectionately for a long time, Di Beichun couldn't help but speak out. Only then did when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying retract their gazes. Shangguan Yingying's pretty face blushed. She looked shy and embarrassed. In contrast, when Xiren was very calm. "Don't you and Hong Zhuang often show off your love in front of us? Could it be that only you are allowed to show off and we are not allowed to?" Di Beichun spread out his hands. "I don't mind you showing off your love every day, but it's not bad to show it while walking." "Huh," Xiren chuckled. It was obvious that after solving the problem in his heart, he was in a very good mood. Bailey Hongzhuang sent Xiao Bai out to inquire. After knowing that Chu Yinyao did not come to the Green Mountain to check again, the four of them did not delay and immediately set off. Outside the Penglai Palace, they found someone to send a message to Ren Ziheng and then directly stepped on the road to the Demon Training Tower. When Ren Ziheng and the others found out that Di Beichun and the others did not return, but Chu Yinyao returned safely, they had been very worried in their hearts, worried that something had happened to Di Beichun and the other three. However, after receiving the news from Di Beichun, they were relieved. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three returned to the Demon Training Tower with ease. However, just as they were about to board the ship at the dock, they suddenly saw an unexpected figure. "Ao Lingxiao, how did I meet you here?" Chapter 3742. Ao Lingxiao obviously noticed the change in Shangguan Yingying's attitude and couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. "Seeing that you're safe and sound, I'm relieved. I thought you were dealt with by Chu Yinyao. I won't go to see the King of Hell so easily." Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows. "No matter what, I still have to thank you this time. It's really not easy to hear you personally thank me." Ao Lingxiao sighed, then said, "Are you guys going to the Demon Training Tower now?" He had already heard of this news before, but when he found out that Di Beichun and the others were safe and sound, he realized that they must have just set off for the Demon Training Tower, so he immediately rushed to the dock. "That's right." Di Beichun nodded. This matter was not a secret. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Ao Lingxiao's face. "Coincidentally, I'm also going to the Demon Training Tower." Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three couldn't help but look at each other, and a hint of surprise appeared on their faces at the same time. They didn't expect Ao Lingxiao to also want to go to the Demon Training Tower. It was obvious that Ao Lingxiao didn't want to go himself, but knew that they were going, so he decided to go with them. Otherwise, he would have stayed in the Penglai Palace for such a long time. It seemed that Ao Lingxiao was prepared to be a follower to the end. "Do you guys mind if I go with you?" Ao Lingxiao didn't realize that he had become a follower at all. His face had a bright smile, looking extremely friendly. The four of them were speechless, but they still nodded and agreed. Although their acquaintance was somewhat inexplicable, and Ao Lingxiao's identity was also a mystery in their eyes. But putting aside the sense of mystery, they were quite friendly with each other. Especially after this matter, Ao Ling Xiao, who had always ignored others, was doing his best to help them find Shangguan Yingying, so they didn't have any reason to refuse. As a result, the original group of 4 became a group of 5. A small boat slowly sailed in the direction of the demon training island. Previously, when I saw Chu Yunyao come back alone and there was no news of the 4 of you, I thought that you had encountered some danger. Today, after knowing that you are safe and sound, I am relieved, Ao Ling Xiao said. Shangguan Yingying glanced at Ao Ling Xiao and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to be so concerned about us. Of course, I'm not completely sure yet. If something happened to you guys, wouldn't I be very depressed? Ao Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows. His expression was extremely natural. Speaking of which, I'm a little curious about how you survived from Chu Yunyao's hands. That woman's attack is like a thunderbolt. There are very few people who can survive her attack. Ao Ling Xiao curiously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. In his opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang went to rescue Shangguan Yingying alone. This was simply courting death. However, the 4 of them came back safe and sound. On the contrary, Chu Yunyao was defeated. It was really unbelievable. You want to know? When Ziren asked with a smile, Ao Ling Xiao nodded. I won't tell you. When Ziren shrugged his shoulders, Ao Ling Xiao had been keeping them in suspense, so he also wanted to keep Ao Ling Xiao in suspense. Ao Ling Xiao rolled his eyes. His speechless expression made Bailey Hongzhuang and the others chuckle. The atmosphere was extremely harmonious. Chapter 3743. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the demon training tower again, they couldn't help but sigh in their hearts when they saw the blood-red island in front of them. When they first came to the demon training tower, they had to be careful everywhere. Now, although their strength couldn't be looked down upon, they didn't need to hide anymore. The 4 of them looked at each other, and a light smile appeared on their faces. This time, they would go in with their true appearances. Entering the Devil Training Pagoda, the attendant in the lobby couldn't help but stare blankly when he noticed the outstanding appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang's group. Handsome men and beautiful women. This combination was really too eye-catching. The moment the man in the lead walked in, she felt the world darken and she couldn't help but hold her breath. This person seemed to have walked out of a painting. Even if she saw it with her own eyes, she still found it hard to believe. The 2 men behind were also handsome men, but compared to the man in the lead, there was a gap. In the next second, the female attendant welcomed them with a smile, her face full of infatuation. Young master, is this your first time in the demon training tower? Di Beichun shook his head slightly and took out his identity card. He turned to look at Ao Ling Xiao. He didn't know if Ao Ling Xiao had come to the demon training tower before. Ao Ling Xiao took out the same identity card from his chinquan bag and shook it at Di Beichun, saying, I have one too. Hearing this, Di Beichun looked at the attendant. We'll just go in directly. The female attendant stared blankly at Di Beichun and the others going upstairs. Her brain couldn't react for a moment. Logically speaking, if such a handsome man had appeared, she definitely wouldn't forget. When did this person come? Let's go to the residence to rest for a while. Then we'll start the arena competition. Shangguan Yingying said. This time, when she was captured by Chu Yunyao, she was humiliated in every possible way because she wasn't strong enough. This feeling made her extremely unhappy, so she urgently needed to improve so that she wouldn't have to suffer such humiliation next time. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Then let's go directly to the doctor's residence. It's more spacious and comfortable there. Ao Ling Xiao, I didn't expect you to have come to the demon training tower before. Ziren said. Ao Ling Xiao nodded. The demon training tower's inheritance is naturally something that everyone wants. It's just that the difficulty level is too high and it's abnormally difficult to obtain it. I tried before, but unfortunately I failed. Hearing this, the others' hearts slightly sunk. They knew of the demon training tower's inheritance, but even with Ao Ling Xiao's strength, he still failed. Of course, the difficulty level of the demon training tower. The demon training tower. Ofs A's. Buts S's. S of the of S of of ts to the tus. Since you're here, we can also see if this is true. If you obtain the Demon Training Tower's inheritance, the two's cheese will overlap, and yours battle power will increase by a lot. Even A.O. Ling Xiao's tone was full of envy when he said this. Chapter 3744. Even so, no cultivator was willing to give up without trying. It was clear how attractive this inheritance was. After A.O. Ling Xiao said this, he couldn't help but glance at Di Beichen. If Di Beichen could obtain the inheritance of the Demon Training Tower, then he believed that his judgment was correct. In fact, when he saw Di Beichen come up with this idea, he also felt that it was crazy. However, if all of this was true, then it would be shocking news. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked past the counter, Sweet Dream, who was busy at the counter, couldn't help but be stunned when she saw these unfamiliar faces. This was because these faces were simply too stunning. However, after she reacted, she immediately blocked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. This is the doctor's residence. You're not a doctor, so you can't come here. Looking at Sweet Dream in front of them, a smile appeared on the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. When they were in the Demon Training Tower, Sweet Dream had always helped them. They didn't forget Sweet Dream. Now that they saw her again, they were all very happy. Sweet Dream, long time no see, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Hearing the other party call out her name, Sweet Dream couldn't help but be stunned. Her entire person was stunned. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the woman in front of her could captivate the birds and beasts, outshining the moon and putting the flowers to shame. If she had seen such a beautiful woman before, she believed that she would never forget. However, no matter how she searched her memories, she couldn't remember when she had seen the woman in front of her. Seeing Sweet Dream's confused appearance, Shangwan Yingying couldn't help but smile. Sweet Dream, I'm Shangwan Yingying. As Shangwan Yingying's voice fell, Sweet Dream's eyes gradually widened. Her face was filled with disbelief. Ever since Di Beichen and the others heard that Penglai Island had the herbs they needed, they had left. Sweet Dream thought that they would return after attending the auction, but she did not expect that after they left, there would be no news of them at all. For this matter, she even specifically asked Steward Qin. She didn't expect that even Steward Qin didn't know their whereabouts. Steward Qin even told her that once Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned, she must inform him immediately. But after a few months, she never saw Di Beichen and the others return. Her waiting heart was gradually filled with disappointment. She never thought that the four of them would leave just like that and never come back. However, before Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left, they had clearly said that they would return, so she had a bad premonition in her heart. She was only worried that they had encountered danger on their way back. Are you Shangwan Ying? Sweet Dream asked in disbelief. Shangwan Yingying nodded. That's right. We were in disguise before. This is our true appearance. Hearing this, Sweet Dream finally understood. You were in disguise before? That's right. Xiren smiled faintly. Sweet Dream, let's get to know each other again. I'm Wen Ran, young Master One. Sweet Dream stared blankly at Xiren and the others in front of her. Obviously, it was still difficult for her to digest this news for a while. However, the corners of her lips gradually rose into a smile. At least now, she could see young Master Di Bei again. Chapter 3745. In the next second, Sweet Dream's gaze couldn't help but fall on Di Beichen. In that case, could this extremely handsome man in front of her be the one she admired? Noticing Sweet Dream's gaze, Di Beichen immediately said, I am Di Beichen, but my real name is Di Beichen. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Sweet Dream's eyes couldn't help but flash with disappointment. The surprise in her heart was also unusually strong. In the past, she already felt that Di Beichen was very handsome, but she didn't expect his real appearance to be so outstanding. She suddenly understood why Di Beichen and the others had to disguise themselves before. With such an outstanding appearance, they would definitely attract attention no matter where they went. It would be impossible to keep a low profile even if they wanted to. However, after knowing Di Beichen's identity, Sweet Dream's expectant gaze fell on A.O. Ling Xiao. I presume this is young Master Di Bei? A.O. Lingxiao looked at Sweet Dream in front of him in confusion, then shook his head and said, I'm not Di Bei. I'm A.O. Lingxiao. Hearing this, Sweet Dream was stunned. The joy in her eyes quickly dissipated and was replaced by a strong surprise and disappointment. Her voice was obviously a bit depressed. Young Master Di Bei didn't come? As her voice fell, the mocking gazes of Shangguaning, Ying, and the others couldn't help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. This was a love debt caused by Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have any thoughts to make Sweet Dream misunderstand before, it was obvious that Sweet Dream's heart was tied to her. Noticing that everyone was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her, the puzzlement in Sweet Dream's eyes couldn't help but become stronger. Ahem, Bailey Hongzhuang coughed twice. She still had to solve her own sins. Sweet Dream. Actually, Bailey Hongzhuang looked a little awkward. I am Di Bei. As soon as these words came out, Sweet Dream suddenly froze in place. Her incredulous eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Her whole person seemed to be frozen, staring at Bailey Hongzhuang, but she couldn't say a complete word. You said you are young Master Di Bei? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. In order to hide our identities, I had no choice but to disguise myself as a man. Sweet Dream felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She could not believe this at all. However, the eyes of Shangguan, Ying, and others clearly told her that this unbelievable thing was the truth. Even after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others entered the residence, Sweet Dream still couldn't believe that the person she loved was actually a woman. He was so outstanding, powerful, and skilled in medicine, but she had never thought that Di Bei would actually be a woman. However, that identity card clearly told her that she was really Di Bei. For a moment, Sweet Dream was both disappointed and ashamed. It was not easy for her to fall in love with someone. It was really hard to imagine that it would be such a funny situation. She finally understood why Bailey Hongzhuang had such a strange expression when she saw her. Anyone who was liked by a woman would feel strange. Sweet Dream was immersed in her own thoughts for a long time before she remembered that she should inform Steward Qin. After all, Steward Qin had always been looking forward to the return of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Chapter 3746. Great, they're back. Steward Qin stood up happily and excitedly paced back and forth in the room. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left, he had been very disappointed. He admired Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills very much. If Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to develop well in this area, she would definitely become the most outstanding doctor on Penglai Island. However, ever since he failed to buy back the Tears of Cold Flame at the auction, he had no more news about Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. He originally thought that they would not come back, but today he unexpectedly learned that they had returned. This news was truly a pleasant surprise for him. Previously, the healing medicine that Bailey Hongzhuang had given him made him a lot of money, and the magic training pagoda had also appeared in front of everyone's eyes. A few days ago, he suddenly heard that the Penglai Palace had also released a kind of healing medicine that seemed to be more outstanding than his healing medicine. It had a better restraining effect on the dark power. However, at present, this healing medicine was only popular in the Penglai Palace and had not been spread out for the time being, so he did not know how powerful that prescription was. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had returned, his confidence suddenly increased. I'll go see them immediately. Steward Qin stood up and was ready to leave, but when he reached the door, he stopped again. No, they just arrived. They should need a rest now. I'd better go later. Sweet Dream looked at Steward Qin's appearance and sighed in her heart. Usually, in this magic training pagoda, the cultivators were all busy coming to see Steward Qin, but they were not welcomed by him. Who would have thought that this situation would be the complete opposite for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others? Bailey Hongzhuang and the other four rested in the room for a while before heading to the arena area. Usually, everyone's cultivation intensity had always been very high, so even though they had rushed here, they did not feel tired. Previously, due to our lack of strength, we were often ostracized in this arena area. This time, we have to do our best to pass through as many stages as possible. Once we have gathered enough killing intent, we can attempt the legacy trial. Shangguan Yingying's eyes were filled with kindness. Although they had only left the demon training tower for a few months, their strength had increased by quite a bit. Their overall strength had increased. She believed that it wouldn't be a problem for them to pass a few levels. Let's get through as soon as possible and try the legacy trial as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were deep. If they could obtain the inheritance, their strength would increase greatly. In this way, they would be able to return to Penglai Palace as soon as possible to take revenge on Chu Yunyao. The humiliation that Chu Yunyao had inflicted on them, they had to get it back in person. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone nodded. With their current level of improvement, it wouldn't be a problem for them to clear a few levels in a row. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the arena area, it undoubtedly caused a sensation. Regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, they all looked at them with amazement in their eyes. However, this also stimulated everyone's desire to fight. They only wanted to beat them down. I'll go up first. Shangguan Yingying smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and couldn't wait to walk up to the arena. She had a stomach full of anger from Chu Yunyao, so she could vent it here. Chapter 3747. Look at your weak appearance. Once you enter this arena, you will only die. The woman looked at Shangguan Yingying mockingly. If you give me your lover, I will let you admit defeat. How about it? Hearing this, Shangguan Yingying's lips curled into a light smile. The style of the demon training tower was indeed the same as before. Everyone was extraordinarily arrogant. However, ever since she left the demon training tower, she also realized that the combat strength of the demon training tower cultivators was indeed very strong. After all, staying in this environment where the strong preyed on the weak had long since died. When she first came here, she did not understand the law of the jungle and the survival of the fittest. However, she had only been on Penglai Island for a few months, and she had been rapidly improving. Although she had been humiliated and tortured by Chu Yunyao this time, after this incident, she had also grown a lot. Although she had come out to train in the past, she had always been under the protection of Serene and the others. Now, she hoped that she could be independent. This was what she wanted. Have you taken a fancy to my man? Shangguan Yingying chuckled. When the woman saw Shangguan Yingying's indifferent appearance, a hint of displeasure flashed across her eyes. The girl in front of her looked much younger than her and was also a newcomer. Now, if she actually dared to look down on her, that's right, but soon he won't be your man because you will become a dead person, the woman said coldly. Then let's see if you have the ability. Shangguan Yingying's eyes turned cold. The person who will die, I'm afraid it will be you. In the next second, Shangguan Yingying was too lazy to talk nonsense with the woman. Her figure flashed, and her movements were as fast as lightning. A fist directly struck towards the woman's temple. Seeing that Shangguan Yingying was so ruthless, the woman could not help but be stunned. She put away some of her contempt and carefully dealt with it. She hurriedly blocked Shangguan Yingying's fist. Shangguan Yingying was not surprised that her fist was blocked. Her fist turned into a palm and once again attacked the woman's neck. His speed and the dexterity of his hands were dazzling. The aura of the 6th level of the Purple Realm was instantly exposed. When the cultivators present found out that Shangguan Yingying's cultivation had already reached the 6th level of the Purple Realm at such a young age, astonishment appeared on their faces. They really didn't expect this girl to have such strength. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover. The woman who had been speaking arrogantly also felt Shangguan Yingying's power during the fight. In a short time, her arrogance disappeared and was replaced by caution. As long as a cultivator made a move, one would know their strength. After this exchange, she already knew that her chances of winning were not very high. In the stands, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others noticed Shangguan Yingying's swift and decisive attack, and their eyes flashed with astonishment. It seems that Yingying has improved a lot recently. Di Beichen's lips suddenly curved, and his deep eyes rippled with a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Indeed, the way she attacks is much more ruthless than before. She attacks the opponent's vital points immediately, not giving the opponent a chance to counterattack. It's poles apart from her previous fighting style. Chapter 3748. Xiren looked at Shangwan Yingying in the arena, his eyes full of gentleness. He could clearly feel the little change in Shangwan Yingying these days. Although the competition was not over yet, they could all see that Shangwan Yingying was bound to win. Bang! With a violent sound, the woman was directly beaten down by Shangwan Yingying. She fell to the ground and could not move at all. Shangwan Yingying stepped on the woman's body and slowly squatted down. She looked down at the woman and said, "Are you still interested in my man?" The woman looked at Shangwan Yingying in shock. A dagger was pressed against her face. Obviously, if she dared to say yes, Shangwan Yingying's sharp blade would not hesitate to cut her skin. "No, not interested." The woman quickly shook her head. "Haha." Shangwan Yingying chuckled and said, "It's normal to love beauty. However, you have to see if you have the strength to do so. I'll spare your life today. However, if I hear you say something like this again, you can only become a ghost in my hands." After coldly looking at the woman, Shangwan Yingying lifted her foot and walked down the arena under the astonished gazes of the audience. "Mighty, domineering," Xiao He and Xiao Bai said one after another. Shangwan Yingying's lips curled into a smile. When she first arrived, she had already noticed that many women's covetous eyes fell on Xiren. Therefore, she had to defend her sovereignty. Sure enough, at this moment, many of the women below the stage had already restrained their gazes. It was obvious that they were shocked by her strength. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Shangwan Yingying a thumbs up and said with a smile, "Yingying, you're amazing. You're too kind." Shangwan Yingying waved her hand. "The reason why I was able to win so quickly is undoubtedly because the cultivators on this level are not very strong. When I meet a real opponent, it will be much more difficult. No matter what, we can see your improvement." "That's right, Yingying. We earned quite a bit from your match." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "Almost no one was optimistic about you just now, so your odds are very high." As soon as they arrived at the arena area, they were used to placing bets. Now, they were undoubtedly much wealthier than before, so they were very generous with their bets. Coupled with the high odds, they undoubtedly made a lot of money. After Shangwan Yingying went on the stage, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also went on the stage one by one. After witnessing Shangwan Yingying's strength, no one dared to underestimate them. However, they were still shocked to find that the strength of these four people was stronger than the previous one. When Di Beichen stepped onto the stage, he defeated his opponent with just one move. The entire arena fell into silence. A few days ago, a ruthless person appeared and taught many people a lesson. I didn't expect another powerful team to appear today. What's going on recently? I don't know. It just so happens that these people all look very outstanding. They look like pretty boys, but when they fight, they're just like bandits. It really makes people speechless. Chapter 3749. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise when they heard the crowd's discussion. I wonder what kind of ruthless person came to the demon training tower recently. Everyone is very afraid when they talk about it. It's really surprising. Xiren sighed. Di Beichen raised his beautiful eyebrows. Since it's a ruthless person from the demon training tower, we will definitely meet him in the future. There's no need to worry. With our current situation, it should be very fast for us to win 10 matches in a row and then ascend to the next level. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, "Leveling up in these two levels is relatively fast. However, when the higher levels meet a Purple Realm 7th level cultivator, our speed will slow down. There's no need to be too anxious. In any case, whether we are in the Penglai Palace or here, we are all cultivating. After we finish the competition, we will directly go to the cultivation area to cultivate. We will spend more spirit stones, but our cultivation speed will increase faster." Di Beichen's deep eyes were filled with wisdom. With our current situation, once we return to the Penglai Palace, Chu Yinyao will definitely think of ways to cause trouble for us. It will be very disadvantageous for us. There's nothing wrong with staying in the demon training tower for a while. Chu Yinyao's strength had already reached the Purple Realm 9th level. In addition, she had an even stronger barrier. Once they were sincerely looking for trouble, although they could ignore it, they would inevitably be angered. Rather than that, they might as well raise their strength here before returning. At that time, they would be able to hold their heads high. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Indeed, if we can obtain the inheritance of the demon training tower, then we don't need to be afraid of Chu Yunyao anymore. Just the blood aura could forcefully raise her cultivation by 2 levels. She believed that the effect of the demon training tower's inheritance wouldn't be bad either. The effects of the 2 auras stacked together would be a great weapon. Ao Lingxiao had come to the demon training tower before, so now he directly went to the cultivation area to cultivate. He didn't plan to come to the arena area to explore more. Ao Lingxiao is also a rich person. I think the cultivation area he went to is not low level. Ziren raised his eyebrows, his face filled with a joking expression. Thinking back to when we first came here, we couldn't even afford to go to the cultivation area. Speaking of which, although I don't know Ao Lingxiao's background, I still feel that his background should be extraordinary. It can be seen from his usual performance. Shang Guanying said. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment. If Ao Lingxiao's background is extraordinary, then why have we never heard of this person when we were in the outside? Listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, the expressions of Di Bei, Chun, and the others became complicated. I've never understood this, either. Ever since I arrived at Penglai Island, I've come to realize that there are far more experts in the Shengxian continent than I had imagined. Logically speaking, such experts should be extremely famous in the outside world, yet we've never heard of them. Di Beichen's eyes were full of doubt. He had always found it hard to understand this point. He only felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what the problem was. At the same time, he was worried. If the cultivators of Penglai Island went to the outside world, then the situation in the outside world would be changed. Tiangang's sect and other places would be greatly affected. Chapter 3750. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, their faces showing a bit of confusion and helplessness. I don't understand. When Ziren sighed, there's so many cultivators on Penglai Island. If they go to the outside world, they will definitely be able to live a very comfortable life. Maybe they really only want to improve their cultivation? Just like how they already had status and glory in the outside world, they were still willing to come here to train in order to improve their strength. That's the only way we can think of it now. Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands. A higher realm indeed had an unparalleled charm to cultivators. It was normal for everyone to be willing to continue working hard. For cultivators, this improvement was endless. The stronger one was, the longer one's life would be. Just this point alone was enough to make people work hard. After returning from the arena area, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest did not return to their residence. Instead, they went to the cultivation area together. Now, they were not as embarrassed as before. There was no problem at all for them to cultivate in the cultivation area. After Bailey Hongzhuang gave the prescription of the healing medicine to Bai Tsangming, it meant that she would continue to earn spirit stones. Therefore, she did not need to spend much effort to refine medicinal pills in exchange for spirit stones. After paying enough spirit stones, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest walked into the cultivation area. As soon as they walked into the cultivation area, they realized that the density of the origin energy here had immediately increased. It seems that the origin energy in this cultivation area is indeed very dense. We are only on the first level of the cultivation area, and we can already feel it so clearly. When we reach the place where we cultivate, the origin energy will definitely be even denser. Ziren's eyes shone with a bright light of surprise. Cultivating here should be much faster. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Indeed, not only can we find opponents in the arena area and gather killing intent here, we can also cultivate in the cultivation area to improve our cultivation. Staying here for a period of time will be beneficial to us. Arriving at this place, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think of her master, Yulin Feng. This heaven stairway was a true divine tool for cultivation. Cultivating in such a dense origin energy, the speed of improvement would definitely be extremely astonishing. The reason why her father was able to recover his cultivation so quickly was inseparable from the heaven stairway. She just didn't know if everyone had received the letters they sent back. If they received it with the spirit stones and the stairway to heaven, their cultivation speed would not be slower than when they were on Penglai Island. It might even be faster. It's pretty good if you think about it that way. Shangwan Yingying smiled. My biggest wish now is to quickly improve my cultivation and go back to take revenge on Chu Yunyao. The four of them looked at each other. This was not only what Shangwan Yingying wanted to do, but also what they wanted to do the most. The next day, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three came out of the cultivation area and were about to head to the arena area, they unexpectedly saw Sweet Dream. At this moment, seeing Bailey Hongzhuang again, Sweet Dream's expression was somewhat awkward. Ever since she knew that the person she liked was actually a woman, Sweet Dream only wanted to hide from Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, Steward Qin believed that she had an extremely good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, so he arranged for her to inform them. Young Master D, Steward Qin was very happy when he heard the news of your return. He asked me to invite you to meet him. Chapter 3751. When they were planning to return to the Magic Refining Tower, they had already expected that Steward Qin would come looking for them. Thus, they were not surprised by what Sweet Dream had said. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three appeared in front of Steward Qin, a hint of astonishment flashed across Steward Qin's face. Only after a moment did he return to normal. I had already heard about your disguise from Sweet Dream, but when I saw your real faces, I was still shocked. Steward Qin's face was filled with an approachable smile as he slowly said, "Such a combination of handsome men and beautiful women is truly breathtaking. Steward Qin is too kind." Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three laughed. Although Steward Qin said that he had just found out about their disguise, they all knew in their hearts that with Steward Qin's strength, he had already seen through their disguise. It was just that he had never exposed it. I am truly ashamed that I was unable to buy the Tears of Cold Flame back at the last auction. Steward Qin's expression revealed a hint of embarrassment and helplessness. When he first went, he was full of confidence and felt that he would definitely be able to take the Tears of Cold Flame back into his bag. He didn't expect that the Golden Flame auction house would not give him any face, causing him to feel extremely helpless. Steward Qin, we all know that you have already tried your best to help us. It's just that the Golden Flame auction house did it on purpose. Di Beichun cupped his hands, his face full of understanding. Regarding this matter, they had never been the slightest bit dissatisfied with Steward Qin. Just by the fact that Steward Qin was willing to go to Penglai Island for this matter, they understood how much Steward Qin cared about this matter. It was just that from the beginning to the end, the Golden Flame auction house was unwilling to sell the Tears of Cold Flame. Fortunately, Di Beichun was lucky enough to meet Di Yujue. If it wasn't for Di Yujue giving Di Beichun a Tears of Cold Flame as a gift, they really didn't know what they would look like now. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not dissatisfied with him because of this matter, Steward Qin heaved a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. This matter really makes me feel ashamed. Have you found the Tears of Frigid Flame yet?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. "We were lucky enough to find the Tears of Frost Fire." As soon as these words were spoken, a hint of astonishment flashed across Steward Qin's eyes. It was obvious that he found it hard to believe that they had actually found the Tears of Cold Flame. As far as he knew, only the Golden Flame auction house seemed to have the Tears of Frigid Flame, but Manager Jean had already explained the matter clearly, so logically speaking, it should be impossible. Even if he had such thoughts in his heart, Steward Qin did not say it out loud. No matter what, it was a good thing to find Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. "Are the four of you here to stay in the demonic refining tower for a period of time?" Steward Qin asked with a smile. His heart was also very complicated. He wanted to get some better prescriptions from Bailey Hongzhuang, but Bailey Hongzhuang didn't seem to have any needs, which made him feel a little helpless. Whether it was greed, lust, or anything else, as long as there was something he wanted, he would have a way. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't seem to need anything, which made him feel extremely helpless. However, as long as he could form a good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, that would be good. Chapter 3752. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, the The smile on Steward Sheen's face widened a little. That's good. The inheritance of the demon refining pagoda has not been obtained for a long time. If you can obtain it, it would be a wonderful thing. Every time a cultivator succeeded in obtaining the inheritance of the demon refining pagoda, it would inevitably cause a sensation. Following that, many cultivators would come to the demon refining pagoda with the mentality of giving it a try. That was also the most lively time for the demon refining pagoda. However, although the inheritance of the demon refining pagoda was extremely famous, the chances of success were too small. Even Steward Sheen could not remember how long it had been since someone had successfully obtained the inheritance. Most of the cultivators who stayed in the demon refining pagoda were here to improve their cultivation. Other than some cultivators who came here for the first time and still had the idea of trying to break through, the other cultivators who had stayed here for a long time had no intention of breaking through. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled faintly. They naturally knew that the inheritance of the demon refining pagoda had not been obtained for a long time. Steward Sheen also hoped that someone would succeed. After all, this way, everyone would know how powerful the inheritance of the demon refining pagoda was. All right, have you heard that the Penglai Palace has recently produced a new type of healing medicine? The effect is extremely outstanding, and according to the news from the Penglai Palace, the effect of this healing medicine seems to be even better than the one that Miss Bailey made before. As he spoke, Steward Sheen paid attention to the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, full of probing. I don't really believe this news. In the entire Penglai Island, there aren't many people whose medical skills are better than Miss Bailey's. Steward Sheen cursed in his heart. The healing medicine that Bailey Hongzhuang made had the effect of restraining the dark energy. If it was that easy to make, then the people of Penglai Island wouldn't have been helpless against the dark energy for so long. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other. They also understood that Steward Sheen's words were undoubtedly to test them. Thinking about it, Steward Sheen was also very concerned about their whereabouts during this period of time. Steward Sheen, Penglai Island has indeed produced a good healing medicine, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Steward Sheen's face couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise. How can you be so sure? Because I was the one who made the medicine, Bailey Hongzhuang admitted frankly. Steward Sheen was slightly stunned. He had some guesses in his heart before, but he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to admit it so readily. In that case, the four of you have joined the Penglai Palace? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Not bad. We are all disciples of Penglai Palace now. From the moment they appeared here with their real faces, they did not plan to hide their identities. With the identity of Penglai Palace's disciples, ordinary people would not come looking for trouble with them. No wonder. Steward Sheen's eyes flashed with understanding. This tears of cold flame should also be obtained from the Penglai Palace, right? Although it was a question, Steward Sheen's words were very certain. It was obvious that he had already determined this answer. Chapter 3753. The tears of frigid flame were given to them by Du Jue. Previously, Steward Sheen had spent so much effort but still failed to obtain the tears of frigid flame from the Golden Flame auction house. If Steward Sheen knew the truth, he might have a deeper grudge against the Golden Flame auction house. Rather than that, it was better to let Steward Sheen continue to misunderstand. It was not a bad thing. Steward Sheen could not help but sigh. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would not disappear for no reason. It turned out that they had already joined the Penglai Palace in just a few months. As a result, it would be even more difficult for him to do business with Bailey Hongzhuang in the future. After all, with the Penglai Palace in the middle, the good things would definitely be snatched up by the Penglai Palace first. This could be seen from the fact that the Penglai Palace had Bailey Hongzhuang's newly developed healing medicine prescription. As soon as the new healing medicine prescription came out, the sales of the healing medicine he sold would decrease. Is the healing medicine that Miss Bailey made specifically targeted at the dark power? Steward Sheen asked tentatively. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, "That's right. Hearing this, Steward Sheen was slightly stunned. Could it be that Miss Bailey is now an inner disciple of the Penglai Palace? As far as I know, only the inner disciples of the Penglai Palace can come into contact with the dark power. We just became inner disciples of the Penglai Palace a few days ago. It was not until Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left that Steward Sheen could not help but sigh. Bai Tsangming really put in a lot of effort. He actually directly promoted Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to inner disciples. However, Bai's great contribution is indeed worthy of such a reward. Steward Sheen's eyes gradually deepened. He really could not imagine how amazing Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were. There were so many doctors and alchemists in the 100 Flowers Gate who could not do it. She actually developed a better healing medicine so quickly. It seems that Steward Sheen still wants to continue doing business with you. Shangguan Yingying chuckled. When he heard that you won and became a disciple of Penglai Palace, I noticed that he was very disappointed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Steward Sheen is a businessman. Now that he knows that the possibility of doing business is much smaller, he will naturally have such an expression. Everyone knew in their hearts that as long as they finished breaking through, there wouldn't be many opportunities to come to the Demon Refining Tower in the future. On the contrary, the days they spent in the Penglai Palace would increase by a lot. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would compete in the arena during the day and cultivate in the cultivation area at night. In a short period of time, they had already completed several 10-win streaks and gradually entered the high-level area of the arena area. For Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' lightning-like promotion speed, the cultivators of the MO Refining Pagoda couldn't help but be attracted by them. After all, their promotion speed was really too fast, and their momentum had only increased. How could they not pay attention to them? Within a few days, everyone's topic of discussion was Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Everyone was envious of their results. Recently, there have been a lot of fierce people who have come to challenge the Demon Refining Tower. First, there was a man dressed in black who single-handedly killed his way up. Now, a team has appeared. Almost all of their opponents have been defeated and were unable to stop them. The most important thing is that these cultivators are all very young. This kind of strength is truly terrifying. Chapter 3754. I've already seen through it. That man has been accumulating his murderous aura all the way in order to pass through the checkpoint area. However, even though he's invincible in the arena area, he'll still fail after passing through the checkpoint. You mean, how hard is it to obtain the Demon Tower's inheritance? If it wasn't for the fact that everyone believes it exists, I would think that it's just a cover. There's no way to obtain it all. Killing intent is a very perverted aura. However, we've only heard of its use. I don't know if it's true or not. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the arena area, they heard the crowd's discussion. Immediately, they became more curious about the black-clothed man. I wonder what kind of black-clothed man he is. Recently, I've heard the most discussions about him. Ziren raised his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with curiosity. It's a pity that he's faster than us. When we entered the next level, he also entered the next level. Until now, we haven't seen him in person. Otherwise, I would really want to find out. That's right. Shangguan Yingying nodded. I feel that this black-clothed man is very mysterious. He's so young and seems to be alone. This kind of style is somewhat similar to A.O. Ling Xiao. Hearing this, A.O. Ling Xiao's lips curled up. When I first came to the Demon Tower, I wasn't as high profile as him. However, the effect is not much different. If that's the case, how likely do you think this man is to obtain the Demon Tower's inheritance? Shangguan Yingying asked curiously. A.O. Ling Xiao pondered for a moment and said, I don't understand a situation, so I can't make a judgment. In short, I feel that compared to the perverted challenge area, this arena area is nothing. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. It seemed that the challenge area wasn't just difficult. Just from A.O. Ling Xiao's expression, they could see that he had a deep impression of the challenge area. You're right. When Ziren agreed. When I was fighting in the Blood Tower, I felt that my performance was very good, But it wasn't until I broke through the levels that I realized how big the gap between the two was. Not to mention the Magic Training Towers challenge area. Just the Blood Refining Towers challenge area was already very abnormal. Thinking about it, the Magic Training Towers challenge area would only be more abnormal. We'll know the result when that person is done. Di Beichun looked very indifferent. It's better for us to spend more time gathering murderous aura. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three continued to challenge the levels as usual. Ao Lingxiao, on the other hand, seemed very casual. He spent most of his time cultivating in the cultivation area. Occasionally, he would come to watch the matches of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Among the five of them, Shangguan Yingying's improvement was the most obvious. Ever since the incident with Chu Yunyao, Shangguan Yingying seemed to have been enlightened. Her fighting style had changed a lot. Under such circumstances, the four people's battle record was also advancing rapidly. The murderous aura accumulated on their bodies was increasing. Many times one could feel the sharp feeling in their eyes. Life went on in an orderly manner. It was worth mentioning that Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly issued a mission in the Magic Training Tower on a whim. The mission was very simple. It was to take a person's life. Chapter 3755. After knowing the news, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask. She didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly issue this task, which was really beyond her expectations. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. Yes, I want to take revenge with my own hands. Shangguan Yingying frowned. Although she couldn't wait for Chu Yunyao to go to hell as soon as possible, she still hoped that one day she could take revenge with her own hands. Only in this way could she be truly happy. I understand, Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Since you understand, why do you still want to do this? Shangguan Yingying asked doubtfully. We are now cultivating hard in the Demon Refining Tower. We can't return to Penglai Palace for a while. How can we let Chu Yunyao be free? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a playful smile. Since she likes to find trouble so much, I will help her make some trouble so that she won't feel bored. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangguan Yingying's pupils gradually widened, and a smile unconsciously appeared on her lips. You mean, face slapping. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips opened slightly and said two words concisely. Hee. Shangguan Yingying covered her mouth and chuckled. It seems that Chu Yunyao will be depressed for a while. With her unscrupulous character, she is suddenly hunted down. She has no choice but to stay in Penglai Palace. I think this kind of thing is what she can't stand the most. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. Although she and Chu Yunyao had known each other for a short time, she had almost figured out Chu Yunyao's character. The most important thing is that she absolutely can't stand everyone's gaze. This feeling is enough to make her crazy. She had never been a good person, nor was she a tolerant person. The rule she always believed in was that if people respected her, she would respect them. Since Chu Yunyao had given them such a big gift, she must send some interest back first. Shangguan Ying gave Bailey Hongzhuang a thumbs up. Good. What a brilliant move. She had always known that people who offended Hongzhuang would not have a good ending. Today, Hongzhuang's actions made her even more aware of this point. But if that's the case, will Chu Yunyao directly come to the Magic Refining Tower? Shangguan Yingying asked worriedly. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. That's only if she can come. Once her bounty was sent out, there were quite a few people who accepted it. If Chu Yunyao had been hiding in the Penglai Palace, many cultivators would not be able to enter the Penglai Palace. If she dared to come out, the result would be unknown. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others headed to the arena area to participate in the tournament as usual. However, as soon as they entered, they were surrounded by a clamor. There had always been cultivators fighting in the arena, but today no one was on it. Moreover, everyone's faces flashed with excitement and disbelief. It was as if they were not interested in the tournament at all. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at each other. The atmosphere in the Magic Refining Tower today was really extraordinary. However, after they heard the contents of the crowd's discussion, their faces were also filled with shock. This is too unbelievable. that black-clothed man actually obtained the inheritance of the magic refining tower. Chapter 37:56. From the looks of it, that black-clothed man is really a ferocious person. Once this news is spread out, he will be completely famous in Panglai Island. The most important thing is that this man is only in his 20s. His potential is simply shocking. I believe that very soon, various forces will throw him an olive branch. Sigh, comparisons are odious. I have lived 10 years longer than him, but my strength is not as good as his. Everyone's discussion revolved around the black-clothed man. There were those who were jealous, those who were envious, and those who were in love with him. Oh my God, he actually succeeded in passing the trial. Shangguan Ying could not help but exclaim, ever since he went to the trial area, there has been no news from him. I thought that he had failed. I never thought that he would actually succeed. This person must be a true cultivation genius. When Ziren muttered, to be able to obtain the inheritance of the demon training pagoda, he must be an incredible existence. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun obtained the inheritance of the blood chi field, which was why they were so outstanding. For the other party to be able to obtain the inheritance of the demon training pagoda, it could be seen that the other party was not ordinary. This is really interesting. I never thought that we would meet such a genius cultivator the moment we arrived. Di Beichun's eyes flashed with interest. It's a pity that we have not seen him yet. I wonder who he is. I hope that he will not leave immediately. That way, we might still have a chance to meet him. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She was filled with curiosity towards this genius cultivator. This news spread like lightning in the entire Panglai Island. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three discovered that the number of cultivators in the Demon Training Pagoda was increasing at a shocking speed. When they went to the arena area again, the spectator stands in the arena area were already filled with cultivators. Now, there were no more seats. There were 3 layers of people inside and 3 layers outside. If they wanted to watch an arena tournament, they had to grab a good seat as soon as possible. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying also discovered that the number of female cultivators in the Demon Training Pagoda was increasing rapidly. It was obvious that they were all in love with the black-clothed man and ran over, hoping that they would be lucky enough to obtain the man's favor. As expected, the attractiveness of a genius is truly astonishing. Shangguan Ying shook her head and sighed. Fortunately, we're only here to participate in the challenge tournament. If we wanted to watch 2 matches, it wouldn't be easy. When Ziren shook his head, I just want the competition to end quickly. Listening to all this noise is giving me a headache. I'm going up to the arena first. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and walked up to the ring. They had already stayed in the magic tower for more than a month, and the killing intent in their bodies had already accumulated quite a bit. As long as they could obtain 10 consecutive victories on this level stage, she would have the qualifications to go to the checkpoint area. However, not long after Bailey Hongzhuang stepped onto the ring, a cry of surprise erupted from the crowd, followed by a series of surprised and pleasantly surprised voices. He's coming. He actually came to participate in the single elimination tournament again. When Shangguan Ying and the others below the stage heard the news, they all looked in the direction of the newcomer. Their hearts skipped a beat. Could Bailey Hongzhuang's opponent be this guy? Chapter 37:57. The man was tall and muscular. He wore a black robe and looked valiant. He wore a black mask on his face, which covered his face. He looked cold and mysterious. As he walked, he exuded a noble aura. Seeing the man appear, almost everyone's eyes fell on him. Everyone knew that it wouldn't be long before this man's status in Panglai Island would rise greatly. If they could become friends with him, it would be very beneficial for them. Unfortunately, this man seemed to be born with an extremely cold temperament, just like how he came to the Devil Refining Tower alone. Until now, no one had been able to say more than a few words to him. Shangguan Ying looked at the man who was walking slowly in front of her. She frowned and said with a doubtful voice, Ziren, don't you think that this man's figure looks familiar? Indeed, Ziren nodded. I also think that he looks familiar. However, we don't know anyone on Panglai Island. After Bei-chan saw the person who had come, his eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of surprise. He did not expect to meet him here. The man's footsteps were originally very light, but when he saw the figure on the stage, his footsteps clearly paused, and his body stiffened for a moment. Then, his pair of calm black eyes suddenly bloomed with a bright light. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man standing in front of her. She didn't know why, but she felt a sense of familiarity in her heart. It was as if she knew him. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She was puzzled. How could she meet someone she knew on Penglai Island? Until now, the only friends they had were Penglai Palace's Ren Ziheng and the others. Hongzhuang. A deep and mellow voice slowly sounded. The man seemed to be excited. His voice was trembling. Hearing this familiar voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly changed. Her face was filled with surprise. You are. The man in black reached out and took off the black mask on his face, revealing a handsome face. It was as if he had walked out from a portrait, coupled with his mysterious and noble temperament. He was just like a cold prince. Mo Yunjue. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the black figure in front of her in surprise. She was surprised and pleasantly surprised. She didn't expect to meet Mo Yunjue here. She also didn't expect that the genius cultivator that everyone was talking about was him. Why are you here? Mo Yunjue's face, which had always been cold, suddenly showed a smile, and his eyes, which were as deep as a black hole, bloomed with a soft brilliance. The ice that wrapped around him seemed to dissipate the moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. I'm here to look for you. The crowd of cultivators below the stage were waiting to see the battle between Mo Yunjue and Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have been in the limelight recently. Everyone hoped that someone would be able to take them down a notch. They didn't expect that the two of them knew each other. It was really surprising. I guessed it right. This man in black is really a handsome man. His talent is amazing. His appearance is even more handsome. If he could be my man, that would be great. Chapter 3758. Heavens! Shang Guanying could not help but cry out in surprise, her face filled with astonishment. It's actually Mo Yunjue. I never thought that I would meet him here. When Ziren could not help but glance at Bei-chan, he clearly remembered that this Mo Yunjue was Bei-chan's love rival. His infatuation for Bailey Hongzhuang was no less than Bei-chan's. Not only that, they had actually met on Penglai Island. Bei-chan, this love rival of yours is quite powerful. Ziren's eyes were filled with admiration. He really did not think that Mo Yunjue would be so powerful. He had already obtained the inheritance of the Demon Tower. Thinking about it, Mo Yunjue already possessed a murderous aura. This level of strength was truly extraordinary. Hearing this, Bei-chan looked at Ziren indifferently and said, Hongzhuang is already my wife. He can't be considered a love rival. Furthermore, even if he was, he would have already lost to me. Ziren, you don't need to say such things to provoke me. Seeing that Bei-chan did not buy into his words, Ziren could not help but shrug his shoulders. All right, since you've already seen through everything, I won't say anything more. Ziren, what nonsense are you spouting? Shang Guanying punched Ziren. You clearly know how much Hongzhuang loves Bei-chan. Why are you still spouting such nonsense? I was just joking. I wanted to see if Bei-chan would feel threatened. Ziren chuckled. However, this guy has already gotten his wife. Young Lord Mo will not be a threat. In fact, from the time when Bei-chan was unconscious and Bailey Hongzhuang's heartbroken expression, they already understood how deep the feelings between the two were. Furthermore, young Lord Mo was not someone who liked to interfere. It was precisely because of this that they admired Mo Yunjue. After all, there were not many people who could be so magnanimous. In the past, they only thought that the young lord of Shutian Tower was extremely mysterious and ruthless. However, they never thought that after knowing him, they would discover that he was a true hero. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yunjue did not make a move and instead started chatting, the referee could not help but remind them. The competition begins. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue glanced at the referee and said, I admit defeat. The audience was in an uproar. Immediately after, angry shouts rang out. It was not because of others, but because everyone bet that Mo Yunjue would win. They never thought that Mo Yunjue would actually admit defeat. However, compared to the anger of the crowd, Mo Yunjue was calm and indifferent. He did not care about the anger of others at all. At this moment, he was completely immersed in the joy of finding Bailey Hongzhuang. After coming down from the arena, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not stay and directly returned to their residence. After ordering a table of good wine and dishes, everyone sat down and had a good gathering. Young Lord Mo, I really did not expect to meet you here. When did you come to Penglai Island? Ziren poured a glass of wine for Mo Yunjue and asked with a smile. Mo Yunjue smiled slightly. I came a while ago. Before that, I had been in seclusion and did not know that you had come to Penglai Island. After I came out of seclusion, I wanted to find you all for a gathering. After that, I also set out. Come, let's all raise our glasses to welcome the arrival of Yunjue. Di Beichen raised his glass, his handsome face rippling with a charming smile. Welcome, welcome. Chapter 37:59. Yunjue, we haven't seen each other for a while. I didn't expect your cultivation to have improved so much. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with admiration. He had always known that Mo Yunjue was a genius with a resounding reputation in the outside world. Now that they had not seen each other for a while, Mo Yunjue's strength had improved so much, and he had even obtained the inheritance of the Demon Training Tower. It could be seen that his progress was extraordinary. I went through a trial and my strength improved, Mo Yunjue said slowly. Although it was said so simply, no one knew what kind of hell he had passed through to get here. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang got married, he appeared to be very free and easy, but only he knew the pain in his heart. He used to drink to drown his sorrows and was also addicted to cultivation. He just wanted to keep himself busy and not think about that figure anymore. Unfortunately, that figure had already been imprinted in his heart. How difficult would it be to forget it? Later, after knowing that Di Beichen had a problem with his physique, he had been helping to find medicinal herbs. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would set off for Penglai Island. At that time, he wanted to follow them, but he was told that only those with a cultivation of the 5th level of the Purple Realm could enter Penglai Island. Under impulse, he directly rushed into the trial of the Heavenly Slaughter Tower. That trial had always been notorious. Although it would greatly improve one's strength if one succeeded, the number of cultivators who died in it was also very shocking. He had never tried it before, but because he urgently needed to improve his cultivation, he rushed in. He said that as long as Bailey Hongzhuang needed him, he would definitely be there. This time, it was really a narrow escape, but in the end, he still walked out of the trial alive, and his strength did not disappoint. Your talent is not any weaker than mine. If it wasn't for the curse body that suppressed your cultivation speed, your current cultivation would not be limited to this. However, now that your physique has changed into a physique that is extremely suitable for cultivation, I'm afraid that you will soon catch up to me. A smile appeared on Mo Yunjue's lips as he looked at Di Beichen with a hint of envy in his eyes. In the past, he cared about strength the most. But now, he envied Di Beichen for having Hongzhuang's love. All right, since you've already found the herbs, why didn't you return? Mo Yunjue asked curiously. We originally planned to go back, but we felt that Penglai Island is a very suitable place to improve our cultivation, so we decided not to go back for the time being. Bailey Hongzhuang said, Now, we are disciples of Penglai Palace. Penglai Palace, one of the 3 major powers? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes, this was also an accident. Master Long of Penglai Palace tried to recruit us with a contract beast. Coincidentally, Beichen and the others didn't have a contract beast, so they agreed. Young Master Mo, do you also not have a contract beast? Ziren's eyes suddenly lit up, and he couldn't help but ask. Mo Yunjue looked at Ziren in surprise and said, Indeed, I don't. Now that you have obtained the inheritance of the Demon Training Tower, it's time for you to become famous. I believe that Penglai Palace will definitely come to recruit you. When the time comes, don't be in a hurry to agree. Just ask for a contract beast. Following Xiren's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood. Chapter 3760. Ao Lingxiao, what you said is wrong. Xiren straightened his expression. Young Master Mo's strength is not ordinary. Penglai Palace naturally has to offer some conditions to recruit him. This contract beast is what he needs. Our relationship with Master Long is indeed very good. His contract beast will be rewarded to Penglai Palace's disciples anyway. Now that we have such a relationship, Master Long will undoubtedly have another assistant. Isn't that great? Listening to Xiren's words that clearly didn't make any sense but seemed to make some sense, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but shake his head. Forget it. I can't win against you. Haha. Seeing Ao Lingxiao's speechless expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but chuckle. In terms of cunning, Xiren was the most powerful among them. If it wasn't for Xiren, they wouldn't have been able to obtain 3 contract beasts from Master Long. Xiren is right. Yinju, if you can obtain a contract beast, your battle strength will definitely be stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Mo Yunjin nodded slightly. All right, since you are all in Penglai Palace, then I will also join Penglai Palace. Right? Yinju, how do you know that you will definitely meet us if you stay in this demon tower? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Mo Yunjue smiled faintly. You and Beichun are both possessors of the Blood Tower's inheritance. I feel that you will definitely not miss the demon tower after coming to Penglai Island. So I stayed here and waited for you. Previously, I also want to go to other places to find you, but there are many islands in Penglai Island. It won't be easy to find you. It's better to stay in a conspicuous place. This way, it will be easier to meet you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all understood. I didn't expect that we would meet an old friend on Penglai Island. This is really something worth celebrating. Tonight, everyone will drink until they are drunk. Everyone was overjoyed. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land was truly a great joy in life. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continued to spend their time in the arena area and the training area. Mo Yunjue didn't hesitate to share some of his experiences so that everyone could have a better understanding of the challenges. Compare with the peaceful life of Bailey Hongzhuang and others. Chu Yunyao's life was extremely unpleasant. Damn it, I won't be able to go out for a while. Chu Yunyao paced back and forth angrily, and her pretty face was covered with haze. You still have the nerve to say that. If you didn't cause such trouble, how could I not be able to get out? Chu Yunshang's face was even angrier. She didn't know what was going on. She only knew that Chu Yunyao was attacked. When she wanted to go out to avenge Chu Yunyao, she was also targeted. It wasn't that she went to find others for revenge at all, but that others directly regarded her as prey. After a careful understanding, they realized that someone had issued a bounty order in the Demon Refining Tower. What they wanted was the head of Chu Yunyao. The most terrible thing was that they were twin sisters. They looked exactly the same. Others couldn't tell them apart at all. Those cultivators couldn't tell them apart. They simply killed both of them when they saw them, so they could only stay in the Penglai Palace and couldn't go out at all. Not only that, they didn't even dare to go to the training area. They could only stay in their own residence because they didn't know if someone in the Penglai Palace would want to attack them. Chapter 3761. That damned Bailey Hongzhuang. Who would have thought that she would issue a bounty order in the magic refining tower? Chu Yunyao's face could not hide the depressed color. She really did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would do such a thing. With her cultivation, even if ordinary cultivators issued a bounty order, no one would accept it because the risk was too great. If she was not careful, she might lose her life. But she ignored one point. As a doctor, Bailey Hongzhuang was really rich. This reward was also very coveted. So many people chose to try it. In such a case, she could only stay in the house. Otherwise, once she went out, she might be attacked at any time. This Bailey Hongzhuang is not easy to deal with. Of course, if you can't solve her, she will not let you be happy. Chu Yunshang's depression was no less than Chu Yunyao's. Who let the sisters have the same face? What should we do now? Do we just stay in a house like this? There is no other way except to stay in the house and cultivate. Otherwise, once we are plotted against, it will be the most dangerous. Chu Yunshang glanced at Chu Yunyao. You have a lot of enemies with your mouth on weekdays. It's rare for someone to hit you when you're down. It's better to be careful. If I stay in a house like this, I will be crazy. Chu Yunyao stamped her feet. Or I'll go directly to the magic refining tower to find Bailey Hongzhuang. I want to enter there with my own hands. At this time, don't be impulsive. It's not like you haven't been to the magic refining tower. You should have some understanding of the abnormal people in the magic refining tower. Since Bailey Hongzhuang dares to issue a bounty order in the magic refining tower, it proves that her appeal there is not small. If you go, aren't you walking into a trap? Chu Yunshang sighed. She was really helpless to Chu Yunyao. In addition to their appearance, the two sisters were completely opposite in temperament. I told you a long time ago, don't provoke trouble at will, let alone provoke alchemists or doctors. This kind of guy has always been a hornet's nest. Once provoked, you must solve it as soon as possible. Otherwise, you are asking for trouble. Although Bailey Hongzhuang is young, her medical skills are very good. I think there are many practitioners who are willing to let her owe them a favor. Sister, I know all this. Bailey Hongzhuang's departure was not an accident. If it wasn't for Di Beichen's unexpected appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and others would have died in my hands. Do you know what the practitioners of Penglai Palace are talking about me? I have become a joke in their eyes. Thinking of this, Chu Yunyao was very angry. She had always been the existence that everyone was afraid of. A few days ago, she just went out, but she heard everyone say that she was a coward. She was so angry that she was going to die. She wanted to refute, but this fact was not persuasive at all. She was so angry that she was angry. Yunyao, don't think that I don't know why you want to attack Bailey Hongzhuang. If I didn't want the cloud spirit fruit you need, how could I have a conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang? Chapter 3762. With Chu Yunshang's voice falling, Chu Yunyao's face suddenly became ugly. What do you mean by this? It's already very embarrassing that things have become like that. It's best to completely forget about it. Now everyone has gradually forgotten this news. Duan Huali obviously doesn't care about it. Why do you still entangle yourself in this matter? Over the years, Duan Huali, you have been tolerating you a lot. No one is a fool. Don't think that we don't know what you have done. It's just you deceiving yourself. Chu Yunshang stared at Chu Yunyao. She felt very helpless that Chu Yunyao had been immersed in Duan Huali's feelings. Speaking of which, she was really not like her sister at all. Chu Yunyao didn't expect her to be so persistent in her feelings. But Duan Huali obviously couldn't like her. If she continued to be stubborn, it would only be her who suffered. Looking at Chu Yunshang's helpless face, Chu Yunyao's expression gradually became ferocious. Forget about it. How can I have your ability? If I could forget, I wouldn't be like this now. If you hadn't interfered in the middle, I wouldn't have been reduced to this situation now. Chu Yunshang was slightly stunned, and her eyebrows could not help frowning. You what you? Chu Yunyao shouted angrily. I'm not as fickle as you. I can't forget like this. After the voice fell, Chu Yunyao didn't want to say anything more and closed the door. Chu Yunshang looked at the closed door, and the helplessness in her heart grew stronger and stronger. She didn't know when the relationship between her and Chu Yunyao had become like this. At the beginning, although their personalities were completely different, their relationship was very good. Who would have thought that it would become like this now? Although she was helpless in her heart, she was helpless. Now, no matter what she said, Chu Yunyao couldn't listen to it. Sometimes it would even have the opposite effect. Many times, she didn't even want to pay attention to Chu Yunyao. But no matter what, she was her sister after all. Tiangang's sect. Ever since they found out that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were safe and sound, Si Tian and Mu Jinstays had become much more comfortable, and they even went out to travel. This pair of lovers have been separated for dozens of years. Originally, they thought that they would never meet again in this lifetime. Fortunately, the heavens pitied them and allowed them to reunite in the end. It was just that after they got together, they didn't have many peaceful days. There were always many things involved. It wasn't until this moment that they could truly relax. This time, C2 Yin wanted to make up for the many years he had owed Mu Jinsei and repair their relationship that originally had some flaws. However, when they returned to Tiangang's sect, they unexpectedly heard Great Elder Qiao Zing say that a man had been waiting for them for a while. Hearing this news, Yin couldn't help but be stunned, and he immediately asked, "Do you know who it is?" Chapter 3763. Astonishing Strength. Yin frowned. "Can you roughly determine that person's cultivation?" Qiao Zing shook her head. "I can't determine it. I only know that after he released his pressure, I couldn't move at all." As soon as these words came out, Yin and Mu Jinsei's expressions changed. They knew very well how strong Qiao Zing was. Even the pressure released by Yin couldn't make Qiao Zing unable to move. This was enough to show that the other party's strength was much stronger than Yin's. This person was truly a powerful figure. Yin and Mu Jinsei couldn't help but look at each other, secretly guessing in their hearts. Could it be that the other party was looking for trouble? However, after thinking about it, they didn't offend anyone, so they couldn't think of a possible opponent. Did the other party say his purpose in coming here? Mu Jinsei couldn't help but ask. They didn't have any enemies other than the Yu clan that they had already dealt with. Could it be that they had someone else coming for revenge? He only said that he came to confirm something with the sect master. He didn't have any ill intentions. I told him that the sect master had already gone out to travel and didn't know when he would return. However, he wasn't willing to leave, so I arranged for him to stay in the sect temporarily. He has been waiting for the sect master to return these days. Qiao Zing looked at Yin tentatively, not knowing if Yin would blame her for this. However, the other party's cultivation was too strong. They weren't a match for him at all. If the other party wanted to barge in, they couldn't stop him at all. Rather than that, it was better to take advantage of the other party's kind words and directly invite him in. This way, they could avoid a conflict. Hearing this, Yin nodded, but the doubt in his eyes grew stronger. From the other party's attitude, he believed that the other party wasn't looking for trouble. However, he was curious about what the other party wanted to confirm. "I understand. Leave this matter to me. You can leave first." Yin waved his hand. "Yes." After Qiao Zing left, Mu Jinsei couldn't help but say, "The other party is so young and his cultivation is very strong. Do you think he came from Penglai Island?" Hearing this, Yin's eyes shone. "According to what you said, it's very likely. If this person really came from Penglai Island, then it's very likely that he came with ill intentions." Mu Jin's eyes darkened, her expression complicated. If he is Beichen's friend, then he doesn't need to confirm anything at all. But now he wants to confirm something with us. Could it be that he doesn't know the true relationship between us and Beichen, so he wants to confirm it? Yin's eyes flickered with the light of contemplation. He pondered for a moment and said, "Since the other party has been waiting here for us to return, it is obvious that he will not give up until he achieves his goal. It is meaningless for us to continue guessing here. Why don't we go and investigate? We will know his true intentions after we ask him." "You're right." Mu Jinsei nodded, her gaze becoming resolute. "Let's go and see what's going on. If the other party is really looking for trouble, we'll think of something else." Chapter 3764. When Yin and Mu Jins arrived, they saw a man in blue robes. He was about 30 years old and had an extraordinary handsome appearance. His entire body exuded a scholarly temperament, and his every movement exuded an indescribable noble aura. Just by standing there quietly, he made people feel an inexplicable pressure. They didn't dare to underestimate him in the slightest. Yin and Mu Jins were both people with great eyesight. Just by looking at the other party's posture, they knew that he was definitely not an ordinary person. This kind of aura was not something an ordinary person could possess. The nobility and power that came from his bones was not something that could be cultivated in a short period of time. "May I know what business you have with my Tian gang sect?" Yin went straight to the point. When the other party saw that Yin and Mu Jins had returned, he seemed very happy. A faint smile suddenly appeared on his face, making his already handsome face even more charming. He cupped his hands towards Yin and Mu Jins and said, "I've taken the liberty to disturb you. I hope Sectmaster C2 and Madam won't take offense. I've come this time to verify something with Sect Master C Tuesday. I hope Sect Master C2 can tell me. Seeing the other party's courteous appearance, C2 Yin and Mu Jin's expressions immediately became better. However, they didn't let down their guard because of this. After all, if the other party was looking for trouble, then they had to be careful. They had never been to Penglai Island, but they were full of reverence for it. If the forces there wanted to find trouble with them, then it would be terrible. As everyone knew, Penglai Island's forces were the top forces in Shangxian continent. Although Tiangang's sect was very strong in the outside world, it couldn't be compared to Penglai Island's forces. Moreover, the cultivation of the man in front of them was unfathomable. They had already probed him after entering, but they couldn't sense the other party's depth. It could be seen how terrifying he was. May I know what you want to ask? C2 Yan's expression was calm and indifferent as he slowly asked. The other party fell into a short period of silence, as if he was thinking about how to phrase it. Then he said, I come from Penglai Island. C2 Yin and Mu Jin's glanced at each other, and their hearts thumped. It seemed that their judgment was right. The other party really did come from Penglai Island. This matter wouldn't be easy to handle. However, the other party's next words stunned them. Secmaster Situ, I heard that Di Beichun is a child you adopted, right? Situ Yin frowned and could not help but feel puzzled. If the other party was looking for trouble, he could have just come straight to the point. But why would he ask if Di Beichun was adopted by him? If he were to make an issue out of this, it would be meaningless. However, he wasn't in a hurry to express his stance. Instead, he wanted to see what the other party intended to do. That's right, Beichun was indeed adopted by me. How old was he when you adopted him? The man continued to ask. His bright eyes flashed with eagerness. Clearly, he was very concerned about this matter. Noticing the change in the other party's expression, C2 Yin was even more confused. When I picked up Beichun, he was still a baby in swaddling clothes. He was only a few months old. Chapter 3765. That was 23 years ago. After C2 Yin replied, he couldn't help but size up the other party. He secretly cursed in his heart. He seems to be extremely concerned about Di Beichun's background. He doesn't seem to be here to cause trouble. Could it be that he knows about Di Beichun's background? After the man heard C2 Yin's answer, his breathing clearly stopped. His hands under his sleeves clenched into fists, and his expression was somewhat out of control. After taking a deep breath for a moment, he spoke again. Sect Master C2 Yin, I heard that you've been looking for the tears of cold flame and a few other herbs. Is it because Di Beichun has the cursed body? At this moment, a trace of surprise flashed in C2 Yin's eyes. How did you know? Why are you asking so many questions about Beichun? Mu Jin's couldn't help but ask at this moment. The other party's behavior was simply too strange. He didn't seem to care about anything else. The only thing he cared about was Di Beichun's background. Especially after receiving C2 Yin's answer, the excitement in his eyes was already overflowing. She also had some guesses in her heart. This one is Di Yujue. The man restrained his expression, and his tone was somewhat serious. After the man said his name, C2 Yin's expression changed slightly, and he asked in surprise, Your surname is Di? That's right. Di Yujue nodded. I'm sure Sect Master C2 Yin has already guessed my purpose for coming here. I'm here to find Di Beichun. If I'm not wrong, he's very likely my son. Di Yujue's words were undoubtedly a heavy bomb that exploded in C2 Yin and Mu Jin's hearts. The room suddenly quieted down, and the atmosphere became stagnant. It was as if time had stopped. C2 Yin and Mu Jin found it difficult to digest this news. They stared blankly at Di Yujue in front of them, wondering if they had heard wrong, because this was simply too unbelievable. However, from the other party's serious expression, they could tell that he wasn't joking. On the contrary, he was extremely serious. How did you come to this conclusion? C2 Yin's expression became solemn. He had been very concerned about Di Beichun's background all these years, because he knew very well that although Di Beichun usually did not say much, he had always been very concerned about his background. Over the years, he had gone to the place where he found Di Beichun many times, hoping to find Di Beichun's biological parents. in order to fulfill the regret in Di Beichen's heart. Unfortunately, after so long, there was no result. Not only in that area, but in the past 20 years, he had also been to many other places. While searching for Mu Jin-se, he had also inquired about Di Beichen's parents. However, there had been no news of them. It was as if they had never appeared and did not leave behind any traces. Back then, Di Beichen had been very concerned about this matter, but in recent years, there had been no news at all. Di Beichen seemed to have gradually given up on this matter and was about to give up. However, he never thought that just when they thought it was impossible to find Di Beichen's biological father, a man would appear and claim to be Di Beichen's biological father. This really shocked him. Chapter 3766. Ever since my son was born, it was determined that he had the cursed physique. However, our family has already researched a treatment method for the cursed physique, so there is no problem. We just need to wait for him to grow up before we can change his physique. Back then, I went out once and wanted to bring my son to meet a friend. I never thought that I would lose the child because of my carelessness. Speaking of this, Di Yujue's voice was filled with regret and shame. This was definitely the worst thing he had done in his life. Every night, he would dream of the situation back then. He hoped that he could make up for this mistake. Unfortunately, it was still a dream in the end. All these years, I've been searching for my son's whereabouts, but there was no news at all. The tears of frigid flame and these few medicinal herbs have always been collected by our family in order to change the physique of the family's cultivators. A few days ago, I suddenly heard that your sect young master also needs these medicinal herbs. I felt that this might not be a coincidence, so I came to investigate because the possibility of the cursed physique appearing is very small, Di Yujue said slowly. Back then, he accidentally lost his child. In the blink of an eye, 23 years had passed. In these 23 years, he had not been happy for a single day. Everyone in the family blamed him, causing him to be too ashamed to continue staying. As a father, he was even more unable to forgive himself. When he thought of the various dangers that Di Beichen might have encountered after he was lost, or that he might have disappeared from this world, or that he might have thought that he was an orphan who was abandoned by his parents when he was born, his heart ached to the extreme. For so many years, he had sent people to many places to search for him, but there was no news. This time, he had accidentally received this news, so he wanted to ask about it. However, he did not have much hope. However, after knowing that Di Beichen was adopted, he felt that the possibility of this was higher, so he came. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, he was not willing to give up. Moreover, the existence of the cursed physique was not so coincidental. However, the answers that he asked Si Tuyin just now coincided with this situation, so he could not help but gradually began to believe it. Hearing Di Yujue's words, Si Tuyen's pupils could not help but dilate a little, and he felt complicated. Do you have any evidence to prove this? Si Tuyen's eyes sank. Many people who knew him knew that Di Beichen was picked up by him, and they also knew about the cursed body. These are not secrets. If someone deliberately wanted to fabricate such a lie, it was completely possible to fabricate it. Di Yujue didn't seem to find Situ Yan's question strange at all. He then said, when Sect Master Situ picked up Di Beichen, did you notice that he was wearing a jade pendant? As Di Yujue's voice fell, Situ Yan's eyes suddenly filled with shock. If what Di Yujue said before had made him suspicious, then after Di Yujue said this, he suddenly began to believe everything the former said. Chapter 3767. The way Si Tuyen looked at Di Yujue changed abruptly. There was less suspicion and hostility, and more trust and pleasant surprise in his eyes. Although everyone knew that he had adopted Di Beichen many years ago, only he, Di Beichen, and Bailey Hongzhuang knew about this jade pendant. Apart from them, he had never mentioned it to anyone else. The others were also completely unaware that Di Beichen had such a keepsake on him. However, the other party had directly revealed the origin of this jade pendant. What's more, his surname was Di. This meant that the person in front of him was very likely to be Di Beichen's biological father. Thinking of this, Si Tuyen could not help but feel a burst of joy in his heart. As the master who had watched Di Beichen grow up, He had long regarded Di Beichun as his own grandson. Now that he had the opportunity to see his grandson solve this knot in his heart, he was naturally very happy. Although Mu Jintz did not know about this, she understood that Di Yujue was probably telling the truth from Si-Tu Yan's gradually changing expression. I see. A smile appeared on Si-Tu Yan's face. When I first found Beichun, he was wearing a jade pendant with the word Di carved on it. Following Si-Tu Yan's words, Di Yujue's face flashed with uncontrollable surprise. Secmaster Si-Tu, is what you said true? Because he was too excited, Di Yujue's voice could not help but tremble a little. He had been searching for his son for a total of 23 years. In these 23 years, he had held on a hope countless times, but returned in disappointment. He never thought that he would finally find him this time. For a moment, he found it hard to control his emotions. Si-Tu Yan nodded. When I first saw his jade pendant, I gave him the surname Di, because this was the only connection left between him and his parents. I never thought that my judgment would be right. His surname is Di. A look of surprise flashed in Di Yujue's eyes. Previously, he had been curious as to why Di Beichun also happened to have a surname Di. He never thought that it would be for this reason. Secmaster Si-Tu is indeed quick-witted. Di Yujue cupped his hands. May I ask where Di Beichun is now? Can I see him? His dark and deep eyes rippled with excitement. Thinking back, he had only spent a short 3 months with his son. Now that Di Beichun was already 23 years old, he did not know what he looked like. All these years, he had been dreaming of the day he would meet his son. Listening to Di Yujue's words, Si-Tu Yan and Mu looked at each other helplessly. For so many years, they had been searching for the whereabouts of Di Beichun's biological parents, but there was no news at all. Now that Di Beichun had gone to Penglai Island, his father from Penglai Island had come here to look for him. It was a freak combination of factors, really a freak combination of factors. Noticing the expressions of Si-Tu Yan and Mu Jin, the excitement in Di Yujue's eyes faded a little and was replaced with a trace of worry. Why do Secmaster Si-Tu and Madam have such expressions? Could it be that something happened to Beichun recently? Seeing how worried Di Yujue was, Si-Tu Yan hurriedly waved his hand and said, That's not the case. Young Master Di, there's no need to worry. It's just that coincidentally, Di Beichun went to Penglai Island a few days ago and is not here now. Chapter 3768. Di Yujue's mind couldn't help but think of a tall white figure. That incomparably handsome face, the two of them felt like old friends at first sight. Could it be that the son he was looking for was the Di Beichun he met on Penglai Island? We heard that the young master of Tiangang's sect was called Di Beichun. He was very puzzled. However, there were many people with the same name in the world. He didn't believe that things would be so coincidental. However, if Di Beichun went to Penglai Island, then he should be the same person as the Di Beichun he met, right? Seeing Di Yujue fall into silence, Si-Tu Yan thought that Di Yujue didn't believe what he said, so he couldn't help but explain. Beichun's cursed body is acting up. Hong Zhuang said that in order to completely cure Beichun's cursed body, we must find those medicinal herbs. We have found all the other medicinal herbs, but we are missing the purple dragon emperor ginseng and the tears of frigid flame. Originally, I planned to go to Penglai Island with Hong Zhuang's father and master, but these two children didn't want us to take the risk, so they left directly when we weren't paying attention. Fortunately, they sent a letter back a few days ago. It said that they met a benefactor and gave them the tears of frigid flame. Beichun's cursed body has now turned into a destiny body. If Di Yujue had some doubts at first, after hearing this, he couldn't be sure anymore. The Di Beichun he met was the young master of Tiangang's sect, his long-lost son. So that's how it is. I didn't expect that I met him long ago, but I couldn't recognize him. Di Yujue's voice was full of emotion. He finally understood why he, who always kept a certain distance with others, had a feeling of familiarity with Di Beichun at first sight. It turned out that this was the blood affection in the bones. The tears of frigid flame was an extremely important medicinal ingredient to the clan. Even if others came to ask for it, he would never give it to them. However, he had only met Di Beichun once. Yet he was willing to give him the tears of frigid fire. When he made this decision, even he himself was a little surprised, but he never regretted it from the beginning to the end. Now that he knew the truth, he couldn't help but rejoice that he had given the tears of frost fire to Di Baichen. Otherwise, with Di Baichen's current condition, he wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. He would definitely regret it. You two have already met? Situ Yin looked at Di Yujue in surprise and asked. Di Yujue nodded. Previously, when I was at Penglai Island, I felt like old friends at first sight. The tears of frigid flame was given to him by me. Situ Yin and Mu Jin Sei couldn't help but widen their eyes. That benefactor is you? That's right. A smile appeared on Di Yujue's face. Sure enough, it's fate. When he thought of Di Baichen's appearance, Di Yujue's mood became infinitely better. Originally, he was still a little worried, not knowing how his son had grown up, but now it seemed that he didn't need to worry at all. His son had been raised very well. So that's how it is. Situ Yan's face also showed a smile. I was wondering why Baichen's search for medicinal ingredients was so easy. It turns out that his father was helping him. At this moment, Situ Yan no longer had any doubts about Di Yujue's identity. Chapter 3769. I wonder who this Hong Zhuang you're talking about is. Di Yujue couldn't help but ask. His mind couldn't help but think of the beautiful figure that accompanied Di Baichen. Hong Zhuang is my granddaughter and Baichen's wife. Hearing this, Di Yujue immediately understood, so that's how it is. We've also met on Penglai Island. I wonder if they're doing well when young Master Di saw them. Mu Jins asked with concern. Although Di Baichen and the others had sent back a letter saying that they were doing well, they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. What's more, these two little guys didn't want them to worry, so it was normal for them to only report good news and not bad news. Looking at Mu Jin's concerned look, Di Yujue's smile widened a bit. Don't worry, they're doing well. That's good. Mu Jins nodded. Then we can rest assured. These two little guys have gone out to explore, so us old fellows are really worried. In the past, I've always been worried that Baichen wouldn't have a good time these years, and my heart was filled with endless regret. I didn't expect that Baichen's luck would be so good, to be able to receive your care and concern. Di Yujue's heart was comforted. He could see that Situ Yin and Mu Jin's concern for Di Baichen was not fake. In fact, just from the fact that Di Baichen could become the young sect master of Tiangang sect, it could be seen that if they didn't treat him well enough, the position of young sect master would not have fallen on his head. What's more, Tian had married his granddaughter to him. He couldn't help but think of the conversation he had with Di Baichen before he left. This guy's character was very similar to his own. From Di Baichen's performance, it could be seen that he and Bailey Hongzhuang were very loving. As Di Baichen's biological parents, they had never participated in his life. Now that he was married, he had already walked on an excellent path in life. It's my fortune to be able to adopt Baichen. Situ Yan's face was full of smiles. If it weren't for Di Baichen by his side all the time, he would have been alone before. Thank you, Sect Master Situ, for taking care of Baichen all these years. I can't thank you enough. Di Yujue bowed deeply towards Situ Yin. His pitch-black eyes were filled with deep gratitude, and there were even some tears that were faintly surging. God took pity on Di Baichen and allowed him to meet Situ Yin. If he had not met Situ Yin, he did not even know if he would still be alive in this world. Thinking of this, Di Yujue was extremely grateful to Situ Yin. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been able to meet such a good person like Di Baichen. Young Master Di is too polite. Situ Yin quickly helped Di Yujue up. Just by looking at Di Yujue's bearing, it could be seen that his status in Penglai Island was not ordinary. Earlier, Di Yujue had already said that his clan was located on the Penglai Island. From this, one could see how terrifying his clan was. Most probably, the Tiangang sect was nothing in his eyes. Such a person was now bowing to him. It could be seen that Di Yujue was sincerely grateful to him. I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. If it wasn't for Sect Master Situ who adopted him and nurtured him well, I might not be able to be truly happy in this life. It's all thanks to Sect Master Situ that my son can be like this.